host and the Discords and stuff.
Yes.
We are doing the streams. Hello everyone, welcome. I am Ilya. This is Daniel and Jesse. Today we're going to be talking about The Legend of Zoldor.
I don't see it. The live stream.
But I'm going to refresh this page.
Is it going to the Twitch?
Come on, guys. Let's get this bread.
It says I'm streaming on the YouTubes. I'm just checking Twitch.
What?
What are you talking?
What's a banana?
I like bananas.
Banane.
Yeah, it's on YouTube and Twitch. Hylian Gamescast.
What am I looking at?
Game Over Jesse went live.
Yeah, yes.
There it is. It came up.
All right,
Came up.
we got Gus, Matt, Samuel. That was weak. What's weak?
Okay.
I wasn't doing anything. I love and pride Wind Waker.
I am not familiar with that game. Oh, Bri is a banana. Hello, banana.
Ich bin eine Banane.
Yes. Please
That's how you
deposit
would
10,000
say
likes.
I am a banana.
Yes, I at least love Wind Waker, but for the discussion, I just thought it would be interesting to talk about why people hated Wind Waker when it was first announced.
Oh, I was gonna try and say Wind Waker was a banana, but I don't know how to say that in German.
Wind
I don't know
Waker,
the word for wind.
it's a banana.
No.
No, okay, I'm wrong.
My brother was actually eating a banana earlier today, and he just he took the peel, held it up in the kitchen, and just went, "Oh, banana," just walked away.
All right, I'm gonna try to turn everyone up. Yes, everyone, I know the volume is low. We're turning it up now.
Sam, are you saying you're a group of men? Because I'm pretty sure that's what men.
I don't know. All I know is there is a place called Menchie's, and they sell frozen yogurt.
Is it good yogurt?
No, you're a human. Okay, that's what you're saying. You are a human.
Do they sell good yogurt?
But for future reference, don't ever normally say ich bin and then followed by something. Because if you say ich bin, if someone, you know how, we...
No, Ilya, you're gone.
Yeah, Ilya, you're gone.
Ilya, you're gone. Come back to
Hello? Hello? Can you guys hear me? I think that's good. Yeah.
She's gone. Oh no.
Oh, she's back.
Okay. Also, someone on Twitter.
No microphone.
Okay. No microphone. Oh no. Okay, so on Twitter here. This is not related to the podcast, but a friend Nate Jantz, Nathaniel Ruffalo Jantz, posted about really enjoying using the Pokeball Plus. I mentioned that I find it a little too small for my hand to play Pokemon with, and I prefer using just a single Joy-Con. Someone else commented, says, I can't use the Pokeball or Joy-Con at all. I just stick with my Pro Controller. Here's the thing, though. That game... Oh, well.
Right. We are streaming and recording again.
Okay.
I had to stop the stream for a second. Have you guys ever read the Legend of Zelda manga? I have read some of the mangas, but they aren't canon. Sometimes the story in the manga are better than the story in the game, but sometimes the manga completely contradicts what the games say.
Oh. Hey, Samuel Welsh in the chat says, I can't connect my phone to Let's Go. Make sure your Bluetooth's on, man. It doesn't ever tell you that. But if your Bluetooth isn't on, it won't connect. And it took me way too long to figure that out. So...
Alright, we are about to begin the podcast. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the canceled... it's not really canceled. It's more like
she's gone.
What could have been Zelda game.
She's back again.
But can you hear me?
Yeah.
Tube
the heck?
Lima discorded us,
Restart
but
compute.
is not here. I guess she's not coming. She's I think has to set up for some party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba. I love Let's Go Eevee, says Bree Bree. I do too, Team Eevee. I'm repping it.
I have a
Eevee's my
Pikachu
favorite.
somewhere back there.
Eevee's my favorite.
What is a
Eevee's
Pikachu?
Eevee's got potential, that's why. I see Eevee, I go, hey, you got Moxie, kid. I like that. So.
That was disturbing.
Disturbing.
Pizza, anyone? Yes, please.
I miss
I will
pizza.
have some.
It's been a
I
while
will
since
have
I've
some
had
pizza. You know what I realized the other day is that it's been like 3 years since I've had lasagna.
Interesting.
Oh.
It's because
I
I
don't
can't
know when the
find.
last time I had lasagna was either.
All right.
So
So we
the
have...
reason being
Sorry.
that I can't find a vegetarian lasagna that doesn't have mushrooms in it.
Ew, yeah, that would. Ew.
Yeah, and I'm allergic to mushrooms, so
Mushrooms are just gross.
I don't know.
I was gonna say, you can't say you don't mind them. Your body clearly hates them.
I don't know. I haven't tried to even eat mushrooms in a long time. But
One of our 5th grade projects was to dissect a mushroom. Then we had to dissect an owl pellet.
Yeah, we
That's
did that
gross.
too.
It was
I
really
just did a
gross.
frog. Sounds pretty boring.
We had to do an online thing called frogguts.org.
Did a frog, a pig's heart, and a cow's eyeball.
All right. While you guys are talking about that, I'll be back. And
So
like,
glad.
Jesse's,
like 2
none for me.
seconds,
So glad I did cyber school
we can begin.
for middle and high school, so I didn't have to do any of that.
Danny, if you can find Annie's faux cheese lasagna, but I don't want a vegan. I want real cheese, Gus. I want my cheese.
You want vegetarian, not vegan.
Yes,
There's a difference.
there is. But alas. Oh well, no stream offline. What? It's offline. Oh no, people are saying it's offline. It doesn't show me that it's offline.
Yeah.
Refresh
not
your
me either.
page, guys. Refresh. We got 40 people watching us have technical difficulties.
What is cyber school? Online virtual school. All my classes were online.
Yeah,
That's-
I thought it seemed haven't heard that term, but
I didn't
I mean,
hear
it
it till I
was
went
pretty-
to college.
it was a pretty easy deduction to make.
Yeah. I didn't hear the term. I used to always just say I was homeschooled, but not really. It was online virtual school. And it just got confusing. So when someone said cyber school one time, I was like, oh, that's so much easier to say.
Yeah.
All right.
I've just realized that my house is crooked, just like Kayla's. So I'm gonna just. Oh no, now it's too crooked the other way. Fix that, please. Fix that. I've got the little bubble thingy, the little level. That looks. Now it says my thing is not crooked, but it so looks worse. I'm just gonna. Oh no, this isn't working, guys. I should have done this before we started. I'm just gonna leave it. I'll be crooked. It's okay. Jesse, let's start. Jesse.
All right.
Yes.
You ready?
Jesse.
Ilya?
Jesse.
That's how you would say in other languages. Yes, see.
Yes. See.
All right.
Ja.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Jesse, or Game Over Jesse, as all of you may know me. Here with us is Daniel and Ilya for episode 66 of the Hylian Gamescast. Today, we're going to be talking about a lot of interesting stuff. Some old news, some new news. And then we're going to be talking about why people used to hate the Wind Waker when it was first shown off, which kind of goes into one of the topics that we have here for the news. So we're going to be talking about a canceled, or rather a changed, or what could have been Ocarina of Time sequel that ended up becoming Twilight Princess. We have some notes or some news of an interview with the creators of Breath of the Wild about the Goron design changes, and we have some Guardian design changes. And then we will end the podcast answering all of your Zelda questions. To guarantee that you get your question answered on the podcast, you can become a Patreon supporter, just like all of these awesome people. We have Wild Horse 64, Samuel, Ranjamin, Foxo, Andrew, Jonathan, David, Amanda, Jacob, Derek, Blargnar, Derek, I already said Derek, sorry, Michelle, Mandy Lee, Michael, Elmer, Colin, Bootleg Boy, Vortex, Gus, Monica, Link Use the Triforce, Lunarium, Shadow to Us, Rusty, and Lovable Christy. So going back to our first person on the list, Wild Horse 64 recently had a really bad accident. She was in a car accident and she was in a coma for a little bit, but a few days ago she woke up and is doing better. But she has a lot of broken bones, like ribs, wrist, legs, everything. It's kind of crazy. Horrible, but it's great news that she actually did wake up. So yeah, let's all try to send her wishes and prayers and thoughts and everything, some positive vibes. I'm going to turn my microphone up a little bit. Alright, hello? Alright, I can hear myself better. Yeah.
Good.
But am I too loud? That's the question. Hello?
Maybe.
Hello?
Das ist die Frage.
I can turn that down a little bit, though. All right. Everybody ready to begin the podcast?
Yes, let's.
All right. Let's start with our first piece of news, this Ocarina of Time thing, since I have it fresh in my head.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I don't even know how I'm going to start this. Should really, like, plan this out a little bit better. All right, you guys ready?
Yes.
All right, hello everyone. I am Jesse, or Game Over Jesse, here with Ilya and Daniel for the Hylian Gamescast. Today, we're going to be discussing a sort of what-if pseudo-sequel to Ocarina of Time that was canceled. And I say like a what-if pseudo-sequel because it wasn't necessarily canceled as much as it was just changed to a different game, which was an Ocarina of Time sequel that became Twilight Princess. And we also know that Twilight Princess also began as a Wind Waker sequel as well. We do have Phantom Hourglass, but that came after Wind Waker 2 was actually canceled. It was originally going to be Wind Waker 2. A lot of people had a lot of issues with the art style and everything with Wind Waker, so Japan ended up changing the art style. They kept some of the dungeons that they had designed. They kept some of the new items, the story plot and everything, and they just basically changed the art style to make it more realistic to fit with the Western audience. And that's how we ended up with Twilight Princess. But during that middle of that change, whenever they had started coming up with new story ideas for Twilight Princess, the original intentions for like the first couple of years wasn't to make it an Ocarina of Time sequel as it is now, to where it's still a sequel, it just takes place hundreds of years later. Whereas the original thing was it was going to be the exact same Link, just carrying on as an adult later on in life. And we do see a lot of elements that were kept from that. We know in the game that like Ocarina of Time Link is still in the game as the hero shade. He also appears as a wolf, the golden wolf that you have to find around. So there's elements of the, I put that in quotes, the Ocarina of Time sequel still in there. And in a lot of ways it plays as a sort of spiritual sequel to Ocarina of Time, where you are born, raised in the forest, just as the original Ocarina of Time hero was. Your first dungeon is the forest temple, then you go to the fire temple, then you go to the water temple, and then the big switch happens in Ocarina of Time. You become an adult, the world changes. In Twilight Princess, I forgot exactly what it was. like Zant comes in and basically wrecks Lineru. But yeah, like they both play very similarly, so you can tell that there was the parts of the sequel that was there, but the actual part that we're looking for, I gotta go back to Twitter to find the quote. Sorry guys, I had it up, but then because it's a long interview and I don't want to go through the entire interview, so I'm just finding the part that I need to. Alright, so beginning with Aonuma, he says, by the way, the wolf transformation idea started some 3 years ago in the GDC when we were thinking of what we should do with the next Zelda game. I woke up in my hotel in San Francisco, completely disoriented, like if I had lost my memory. Some seconds later, I remembered I was in the US to give a speech at GDC, which is the Game Developer Conference for the people that don't know. Maybe it was because of the stress. I then thought how surprising it'd be if in the next Zelda game, Link started off being imprisoned or turned into a wolf. The interviewer says, I see. Aonuma continues, back then we considered making it a sequel of Ocarina of Time. Some years later, but then we thought of the first-time players who wouldn't understand a thing if you started as a wolf. So we changed it and had human Link from the start. So there's the beginning of that second paragraph there where it says they wanted it to be a sequel of Ocarina of Time, but then the players wouldn't really understand if it was a sequel to Ocarina of Time, but then you start out as a wolf. Like, there's some weird things going on there. So they ended up making it, which there's an Iwata Asks that kind of goes more in depth on this, where they talk about how they completely changed the entire beginning of the game. Like they mentioned that Ordon Forest, or Ordon Village, was supposed to be in an entirely different location, and at the last minute, Aonuma came in and was like, hey, what if we changed this and put it here? And then the game was delayed for an entire year. So, yeah. But yeah, like, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like, instead of making it a direct sequel, so that in Majora's Mask, it kind of made sense because it released 2 years later, but then Twilight Princess releases like 10 years or whatever after Ocarina of Time, and they already had Wind Waker and Majora's Mask that came after, and then Twilight Princess was taking place in a completely different timeline. So it's like if they did have like a third Ocarina of Time game, or third Hero of Time game, I mean, then a lot of people who didn't play Ocarina of Time and just played Wind Waker might come into it thinking, oh, what's going on here? I didn't play Ocarina of Time, I didn't play Majora's Mask. What's going on? Or it could have been in the other timeline, so that even if you did play Majora's Mask, this has... No, I guess it would have to do with it, because Link wasn't... Yeah, so yeah, it would be...
Yeah.
I almost got confused there, yeah. So it would have to be the Majora's Mask sequel, because Link wasn't in the other timeline. That's why there was the flood. Interesting. All right, guys.
And then the third one, he's dead. So.
Yeah,
true. Very true.
Unless he had a fairy in his back pocket. No, so that makes sense. Like, you know, if someone didn't play Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, which Majora's Mask, there would have been a ton of people that didn't play it because when it released, it only sold like half as many copies as the original Ocarina of Time because it released so late on the system, and then you needed the expansion pack just to play it. So there was a ton of people that didn't play it when it originally came out. And then, again, if you come in from playing Wind Waker or some of these other games, and then you didn't play Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, then you might come into the game a bit confused on the backstory. Again, why you're starting out as a wolf. How did the Hero of Time become a wolf? Who knows? But anyways, I just thought this was a very interesting little tidbit here. It actually came from someone on Twitter earlier when I was asking for beta facts or canceled stuff from Twilight Princess. Someone commented, it was Ether101_Prime. So thank you for this little tidbit, and then he gave me a link to the interview. So what do you guys think? Starting with you, Daniel.
Oh, well, it makes a lot of sense, actually, because assumed at the time that it was just a placeholder, but if you watch very early trailers for Twilight Princess, it doesn't, like, the way the story unfolds, it shows a bit of like horseback link, and then it shows like there's a trailer that shows it basically I'm starting out in prison as a wolf link. There's some very different aesthetic changes from the final version. Like the Twilight Realm is grayscale rather than just being really like heavy on the bloom effect. And Midna's hair is different as well, but also in that trailer, Link's voice is the reused voice clips from Ocarina of Time, not the Twilight Princess voice actor. So I remember, I guess at the time, thinking it's just a placeholder till they get a new voice actor or something, which makes sense. But then if it was intended to be a direct sequel with the same Link, then this sort of the way this trailer was built makes a lot more sense to sort of where the story of that game was at the time that trailer came out. I would have to actually go digging and find the trailer. I'm just pulling all of this out from memory, so I could be way off the mark. But I mean, it's not unheard of for them to have a story in mind and then change it at the last minute, anyways, because they did that with Ocarina of Time as well, which we've talked about in previous episodes of the podcast. And Twilight Princess also, they were going to make a Wind Waker 2 initially as well, and then didn't. So I think I agree with the decision overall, because as much as people are always like, I want a third Hero of Time game, I want this so bad. If there was a lot of people, Twilight Princess was their first Zelda game. Like, a lot of people. And at the time, it was the best-selling Zelda game as well. And it wouldn't, there's that level of accessibility that would be gone if it were a direct sequel, unless they really changed a lot of things. And that's the thing, if they made a third Hero of Time game now, there are people now who are Zelda fans who were born long after those N64 games came out, and they probably, like, some of them have not played these games, and so they'll be frankly lost and confused. So sorry to crush everyone's dreams. But overall, I think I agree with Nintendo's and Onuma's decision to make these changes just to make it accessible for people coming into the series.
I'm also really glad that you don't start the game as a wolf, because
yes, oh my goodness. Also, then changing into human Link would be jarring, and also then a lot of people did not like the wolf segments. So can you imagine all those people buying the game and then being like, this sucks, and then not getting to the point where you could turn back into Hylian form? Yeah. People just drop the game and like, no, none for me, thanks.
It actually doesn't even actually take that long to get back into human form. I just started replaying Twilight Princess, and I haven't played it since I was like,
which version?
11 HD.
Oh yeah, nice. Good, the best version.
Yeah, because I got to the Tears of Light segment and it had this, and I was like, wait, this is
They
HD.
did shorten it though. Yeah.
It's been a long time, and since the last Zelda game I played was Breath of the Wild, there were so many moments of like, whoa, this is a lot more different and difficult for me, but now I'm used to it. I was like, I can't. My mom especially, she's like, why don't you just climb that wall? I'm like, you can't climb everything.
You can't do that.
It doesn't work that way.
No jumping.
It's funny.
No climbing. No sprinting.
It's nice to be able to roll again, though.
Yes, but when I replayed Wind Waker HD a bit ago, I would like try and jump or climb the walls, and I was like, right.
Can't do that.
Can't just jump off my boat onto this island and scale this wall. Oh no.
It doesn't work that way.
Gotta wait till I get the hook shot. And then I'm like, that's why they had the hook shot. That's why they didn't get the hook shot in Breath of the Wild. You just don't need that. So.
Yeah. But on the subject of like this interview and everything, I also am glad they didn't make it like a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time, because Majora's Mask worked out because it was a completely different story, and like, you know, it's the Hero of Time, but it's not a necessary part of the story. I don't know. I mean, I guess they could have worked with that with Twilight Princess, could have made it a not so necessary part of the story, but if you're I don't know. I'm just glad they didn't do it. I'm glad they had the Hero of Time in it as the Hero Shade, but I don't know. I'm just thinking it was a good decision that they didn't go with that. They had nods to the Hero of Time, but it was like, nah, let's just... Majora's Mask was good, but it was its own thing. The only nod to like the past game was Zelda, and that he's looking for an old friend, which is Navi. Well, I guess there's like Skull Kid. Like, they're not things that you're like, you have to know Ocarina of Time to understand those references. You know? And most people that played Majora's Mask probably played Ocarina of Time right before because they were so close.
And it's probably why there are so many other similarities. Like the first dungeon that you go into is still like Deku Tree-esque. And then there's the Deku symbol that's everywhere. The you find like the Queen Rutella or whatever, who's named after Queen Ruto. It was like that might have meant to have been Queen Ruto or Princess Ruto at some point, like when it was originally the Ocarina of Time sequel. And then you have you mentioned the Skull Kid was in Majora's Mask, and there's a lot of people that think it's the same Skull Kid from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask that's teaching you like your way through the Lost Woods in this. So originally it could have been that it wasn't like a theory. It could have originally intended to have been the Link. But I think the funniest part is, and I mentioned this in a video that I have coming up, is that he just wakes up one day and is like, what if you played as a wolf in the next Zelda game? And then they just go in and completely change everything around for it. Because that idea came like while they were in the middle of developing Twilight Princess. That didn't come like as soon as they're done with Wind Waker and they're like, oh, let's make a new game. Let's have him turn into a wolf. Because he's like at GDC to give a speech about Zelda games, likely the development of Twilight Princess and what to expect. And he just wakes up confused and is like, oh, what if you played as a wolf? And it's like, I don't know. And then there was an interview in the Iwata Asks where Miyamoto talks about like whenever Aonuma brought it up, he kind of like, he thought everyone would just laugh at him, so he kind of brought it up as if he was joking. And then there was a few people that liked it, and Miyamoto was like, but that would be boring. Why would you want to stare at the back of a wolf during the game?
Yeah.
And then they tried coming up with ideas and ways to make it interesting. So then they brought in Midna. That way you would have an actual character that you could look at instead of just looking at this wolf's butt for 3 hours at a time.
Yeah.
So if they wouldn't have had the wolf there, then Midna wouldn't have even existed, or if she did exist, she would have existed in a completely different form.
And it's funny because she ended up becoming the titular character of the story.
Yeah. So it's crazy how like one simple thing, literally him waking up being confused, ended up completely changing the game around. What about Okami? I don't know. Like maybe they didn't have that thought of.
They didn't have Miyamoto being like.
That would be boring.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's everything that I have to say about it. Like, I would love a third Hero of Time game, but I don't know. I'm glad Twilight Princess is its own thing because it adds a lot more lore and stuff to it, because now you have a Link who is the descendant of a past Link. Mm-hmm. You have the Hero of Time still showing up. And maybe that was another thing, is like they had all of those techniques that you learn. Maybe Link, the Hero of Time that you would have originally been playing as, would have learned all of those techniques a different way. But since they changed the story, they had to be like, oh, well, how do we have this Link that you're playing as now learn these? And they're like, well, why not just let the old Link teach it to the new Link? So, I don't know. It's all interesting. I like it. But I guess we can move on to the next thing, unless someone has something. All right, no. Daniel, do you want to take it?
Well, which one are we doing next?
The Guardian one, I guess.
The Guardian designs. So this is an article from GoNintendo.com, and it's not necessarily the article itself, but the details in it that we're more interested in. But it is Nintendo reveals details on the creation of Guardians for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So Breath of the Wild, creating a champion book is filled with all sorts of interesting details on the creation of the game. One section focuses on the creation of the Guardians. Nintendo artist Takafumi Kiyuchi, probably pronounced his name wrong, shared some insight into the development of the enemy, which you can find below. So, excuse me. So there's some notes about the design. So the Guardians should have many legs so they can work smoothly. Guardians should have a design based on ancient culture, which I think they went with what's called Joman culture, which is an ancient Japanese thing that I don't know that much about, but I know Zeltic made a really good video on it, so you should watch that, guys. Nintendo didn't know whether Guardians should be made into allies or enemies at first. Well, so they kind of took it both ways, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of both.
Yeah, the team had to draw something neutral so their artwork could be used in any way they like. The Guardian's legs were designed in a way for it to bend freely like an accordion and move over uneven terrain. The flame-shaped pottery from the Joman period was used as inspiration for the Guardian's body. Okay, that's the thing. And the team created a Guardian fortress with many lasers, but the idea was never used in the final game. Why not? What?
Yeah.
Oh no!
Already had that last shrine cave where like you go in and it's like
Yeah.
Pew, 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 pew. Your mic cut out there, by the way, but it was still the message got across.
No,
100%.
I think it's just the mic did cut out. I was gonna say I
Yeah.
think it's just delayed, but yeah.
No.
But yeah, like
my thing just turned off again.
the
I
reason
don't
that
want my Blue Yeti mic to die.
the reason they didn't have this Guardian Fortress is because then we would have had a 5th dungeon, and Nintendo didn't want to give us more than the 4. Well, technically it's the 6th because Hyrule Castle's a dungeon, but yeah. I was really hoping for an actual dungeon, and even though the Guardian, in a way, it would kind of make sense for like to have a giant Guardian as a dungeon, or to have a dungeon that's infested with a bunch of Guardians, which I guess like there are the smaller Guardians in the different dungeons, but it would have been interesting to see like a giant Guardian that's kind of like the divine beasts, but is in the shape of an actual Guardian. And I think we see the concept art for some of the Guardians to where it's like they're like 50 feet off the ground, and they have those long tentacles with like a city dome inside at the top. I think it might have been something like that, to just have it walking around everywhere. Like having that dungeon would be really cool. So it sucks that we missed out on a dungeon, because it says they actually created it here. It says the team created a Guardian Fortress with many lasers, but the idea was never used in the final game. So they took all the time to work on it. They could have added it in, but they didn't. So kind of sucks. It's like Hyrule Castle, or Hyrule Castle Town. They took all of the time to develop the entire town, the city, how it looked like. It looks amazing. But then you can't do anything in it because the Hyrule Castle town we're allowed to visit is already destroyed. It's really sad.
Yeah. But we got it in those cutscenes, I guess.
Or like we've all seen like the artwork of that Hyrule Castle town pre-destruction, and I'm just like, wow, can we get that at some point? I love Breath of the Wild, but can we get that, please?
Yeah. One day.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Probably in like 2 years, 2 or 3 years. Maybe.
I think
Depending on how many delays.
everyone was hoping the DLC for Breath of the Wild would have been that, like letting you go in the past and stuff.
Yeah.
Time travel.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
not
that
like
would be
it's
cool.
unheard of in Zelda games.
Yeah.
It's true.
You
Yeah.
know.
Are they still doing DLC for Breath of the Wild? There's like a 10% chance they are.
I mean, they pretty much said they're done, but
Well, they
They say
did.
a lot of
So before, I would have said there was a 1% chance that they were working on Breath of the Wild DLC, just because there's always the chance that Aonuma wakes up one day and is like, hey, what if we, like this thing that we already made, what if we just put it back in the game and charge people $10? That way, like, they don't really have to create anything else because it's already made, like this Guardian Fortress.
Yep.
Or even the motorcycle. We've seen the motorcycle in concept art from when the game first released. So they had already worked on it. They probably had examples ready, and then they just didn't put it in until the DLC. So there's always the chance that they could, like, add in new DLC. But they came out and said that they were finished, that Al Numa and his team were working on the next Zelda game. But with that said, the president of Nintendo came out a month or so ago and said that he wants to release new DLC for games that were already released, hinting towards like Mario Kart and ARMS and Mario Odyssey, and maybe even Breath of the Wild, who knows? Because he didn't name anything specific, he just said big games that were already released, and Breath of the Wild is one of the biggest games that is already released.
Yeah.
So
I would hope it would be Odyssey, though. I feel like Odyssey didn't really get anything. Great game on its own, but
get the Luigi balloon hunt.
I feel like it deserves a little more than that, though.
Yeah. And not just the extra costumes, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing
Also,
against
I will
extra
be right
costumes.
back. I just drank a whole thing of tea. I feel like I do this every podcast. I drink tea. I'll be right back.
It's alright, tea's good. I've been drinking Gatorade.
Not the same thing.
It's not?
Not at all.
No.
No.
Mine has more sugar.
And more neon colors.
Neon colors. That's what they made your 64 out of.
Yeah, they made it out of Gatorade. Just poured it into a mold of the console and the controller.
Yeah, that's because it
And
gives
dumped
you
blue Gatorade in.
the Gatorade gives you energy. That's why the Nintendo 64 is a lot more powerful than the other consoles.
And
Like
that's true.
The PlayStation and whatever Sega had at that time. I don't even know. Like they had their 32-bit consoles, I guess. But Nintendo, or the other people had their 32-bit consoles, and then Nintendo had their 64-bit console. So like Nintendo came out with an entirely like a generational leap almost. But then there were the trade-offs. Like the Nintendo 64 was quite a bit more powerful, but the cartridges didn't hold nearly as much data.
Yeah.
So there were developers that they had to choose, like, we can make a bigger game if we use PlayStation, but we could make a better looking game if we used Nintendo.
And I think the cost of actually producing the cartridges was a lot higher too, which made, I know, between the disk storage space and that's what made, I think, Square kind of jump ship with Final Fantasy.
Yeah, there's the Final Fantasy VII demo to where like the game looks better than it did on PlayStation, but then, yeah, he is drunk off red rum. Are you guys talking about the Gatorade? It's not red rum. This is Gatorade.
Someone in the chat before was saying red rum, and I think Sparrows said that he drank it, which fits the bill. For pirate stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
She said you were the weakest link. I'm here. What did Ann Robinson say to Triforce Heroes? I don't know what they're talking about now. They're just having their own conversation.
I think they're just having their own thing going on there. Someone did tell a joke in here that let me find it here. Yeah. Why does Zelda watch so much YouTube? Because people keep saying there's a link in the description.
Oh my gosh. Well,
I love it. Thank
Fabled
you for putting
Thunder
that in the chat for
says,
me.
Let's talk about
Elon.
Banana. When is Ilya?
Bananas.
Yeah, no,
banana.
I had a picture of a banana the other day.
I ate a banana today.
Yeah. We're just
Bananas
for everyone
every
watching. We're just
day.
filling in time till Ilya returns to get
Yes,
her thoughts.
you can go and intensify. Good. Very good.
Yeah. So, what was the coolest thing that you were able to do during Christmas break, Daniel?
We played Mario Party.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, my wife and my son, they'd never played Mario Party before, so we played our first game, Mario Party, together. All three of us lost to the computer. So,
Nice.
oops, Wario beat us all. We were all very angry at him. No, we had a lot of fun. It was great.
So for the people watching, there's a video series idea thing that I want to do where it's like a verse Ocarina of Time run. You've probably seen Zelda Dungeon. They have a series on it. HMK and Zelda Master Luke, they have a series on it. There's a bunch of people that do it where you just play the same game and see who can play through it faster. I want to try to do that as well. So maybe one day we'll all be able to do that. And you guys can watch us and listen to our stress reactions as one of us dies from a random Deku Baba that pops out of nowhere. And then everyone else cheers because now they're suddenly ahead.
Deku Baba!
Yeah.
Fallen 3cho in the chat says they have the same backpack.
You have a backpack?
That's who? What backpack?
Maybe he means your shield? He thinks your shield's a backpack?
It's a plastic shield, it's not a backpack. Ilya's, I think, is a backpack.
Yeah. I don't have a backpack. I love banana bread. I like banana bread too.
I have this, it's not a backpack.
Whoa!
But this is my new Switch case.
That's a Switch case?
For your Switch in here. This Velcro's loud, so your Switch can go in here. You got room for your dock.
No way.
Boards and stuff. Put a Pro Controller in here. I don't know where you can buy this. It was a Christmas present, but it's very nice. Thank you.
Wow. That looks...
I just like that Chica. It's kind of hard to see in the light. There we go. Chica little designy majiggers there.
Yeah,
those little.
That looks amazing. I'm jealous.
I like it.
Do you have your Switch in there?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
Not at the moment. I've just got a storefront behind me here, so. Ha 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 ha. Don't let this distract you from the fact that Ilya is still not back. No, we're just waiting till she gets back.
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay, no, but whose backpack? I'm so.
What does Zelda call a photo in the DLC of Link and the Champions?
She's like, it produces images. Somehow, I don't know why they're also like shocked about it because pictographs existed already in the Zelda history.
Yeah.
So they're just like really good pictographs.
They have all that other technology as well.
Yeah, they have like literal robots and they're like, but this takes a photo. It's amazing.
Yeah, like people can literally teleport almost anywhere. There's a sword that shoots lasers. They have a Triforce that you can wish anything that you want.
But Jesse, it takes photos.
I don't know. It is weird.
It is one of those things. I was like, really? Oh, she back.
Yay!
Sorry, that took longer than expected. I got hungry.
Ilya.
I have food with me now.
Nice. I want food.
Oh, he did say. Oh yeah, no. So it is not a backpack. Sorry, it is just a plastic shield.
Yeah.
I think Ilya has the backpack though.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ilya's is a backpack. Mine's not.
Have nothing that resembles a
huge.
shield.
Like it engulfs me when I wear it.
Nice.
Good. Do it. Put it on.
All right. So.
I mean, I have to get up.
Yeah. What did you guys think overall about the Guardians? Yeah. Would you have wanted to see this giant Guardian?
Well, in the article, it's in the books as well. Some of the other concept art for Guardians, there's some serious nightmare fuel stuff. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the Guardians we got. They're intense. They're freaky automatons.
Ilya.
What? Yeah, I know. I have stuff on my face.
Okay.
I can see. Don't worry.
All right. Just letting you know. Tell Ilya the Zelda joke, please. Daniel, would you like to say the Zelda joke? Okay.
The joke they fed us in the chat. Why does Zelda watch so many YouTube videos?
Because they're from links.
There's close. Because people keep saying there's a link in the description.
I like it.
Yeah,
Robert says, every time I hear a piano now, I shudder.
That's true. That was
It's
one of
insane.
the really nice things about the Guardians that we have in the game is in the very beginning, they're like in the ground and there's like mild piano music. Like when you're on the Great Plateau, it's just, they're like in the ground, you're like, oh, what is that? And you like run away. And then when they start chasing you, the piano music gets louder. But once you know how to defeat them, pretty simply, like especially if you know how to parry easily, then it's nice to, you still have that, like they're still scary in the sense that you hear the piano music and you're just like, whoa, what was that? Oh, I know what's going on. Okay. And but you can handle it now.
Yeah, later in the game, the piano cue comes in. First of all, I love that when the ones they wake up and it's like that bong. It's so dramatic. I love it. But when that piano cue kicks in later in the game, it doesn't get me like running. Like I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna die. It like kicks this thing into my head and I'm like, oh, it's on now. I go into like beat down mode. I love it.
What I really like is that the enemies in past Zelda games, they would all just attack you, but in this one you can get a Guardian and a Lionel and a Hinox fighting each other.
Yes. Oh my goodness, there's a Dorkly video. I love the channel Dorkly, by the way, and not just because Tony dresses like me, but there's a Dorkly video where they basically try to do like a tournament where they try to get as many like overworld bosses to fight each other as they could.
Oh my gosh.
And they kept trying to like bait like Hinoxes and Stone Taluses into the same area to have them fight each other. And the Stone Taluses basically came out on top with it against all the enemies because
Whoa. We
of
have
their weak spots.
The Manboy Cave donating $5 says, is there another DLC for Breath of the Wild? Which character besides Link would you like to play as? Oh. So I think it would be coolest to play as a Goron. That way, because imagine rolling like a Goron with the spikes coming out and just like running over a Lionel or ramping off of some of the giant hills that they have. And then if you could land, no matter how big of a drop it was, and keep rolling, then I think that would be really, really cool. Because you could ramp off some giant mountains. Like whenever Link is snowboarding, you can do that. But story-wise, I think playing as the Gerudo would make the most sense with the story.
Which Gerudo? Like Urbosa?
Yeah, Urbosa.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool to have just a short DLC campaign, like just a short campaign where you play as each of the champions in their own area, and kind of utilize their own unique abilities. I don't know, that would be cool. But just like really short campaigns that are roughly about the length of the time when you would say reach an area and go through a divine beast. So like basically, because typically in the game when you go to a new area, you see the divine beast, you gotta go to talk to people in the town, then run a few errands, find the guy whoever's gonna help you get onto the divine beast, then go in and do the dungeon part of it. So basically that span can take maybe a couple hours or something. So even just a short campaign around that length of time, but 4 of them, one with each champion, be really cool. Really cool to do.
Even like the length it takes to do the Great Plateau.
Yeah. I really, the Great Plateau is one of my favorite areas in the game.
Yeah.
That like starting out place is a really well fleshed out area too. So
I don't know who I'd want to play as in DLC. Because I guess it would depend on the story. Because if it was a prequel thing, then I'd be like, oh, totally the champions. But if it's a afterwards thing or still in the middle of the game type thing, I don't know. I do not know.
I see Pikachu creeping out of the corner on your screen.
It's, my Pikachu.
It just has like half of
pillow
his
pet.
face and his hand up.
he's watching.
It's covered by my little sign that says Noel.
Nice.
No L.
Noel.
Yeah.
Why not?
Because there's no L in my name. My real name, I mean.
There's no L in Ilya, so you're Ilya.
Yeah. The L is silent. No, okay, so I think we can move on to the next thing since we're done with the Guardians.
Yes.
Ilya, would you like to take it? The Goron design change?
Yeah.
Goro.
Okay. This comes from Go Nintendo. Zelda Breath of the Wild developer discusses how Gorons almost looked very different in the final game. Okay. So according to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild lead NPC artist Hirohito Shinoda, just gonna go with that. I'm very sorry if I just offended someone. The Gorons almost had a very different look than how they appear in the final game. Quote, at the beginning of development, we tried to drastically change the Gorons' appearance compared to past titles. I made their heads bigger, made them more human-like, and explored a lot of different ideas. But none seemed to really fit. So, I returned to their roots and decided to lean into their original design from Ocarina of Time. In recent titles, the Gorons have had tattoos, but I thought that due to the anime-like styling of this title, we should aim to make use of the empty space rather than trying to fill it. So I went with a very clean design. Rather than just making them round, I paid close attention to the 3D model to ensure they felt like a sumo wrestler, someone with body fat and muscles, and that they looked very powerful. Out of all the Gorons that appear, it seems that Yunobo was going to be the most different. Shinoda went into detail about the changes. At first, to make Yunobo look related to his grandfather Daruk, I made Yunobo very familiar, from his hairstyle to his muscles. A lot of people said that it made him look like an old man, so I made some major changes to his design to make him feel younger and sweeter. The character was spawned from the idea of a character, who is cowardly but paradoxically, physically powerful. The gap between being very strong with high physical potential while being a bit fragile led to a very charming character. So that's interesting. I can't imagine them being more human-like.
None for me, thanks.
That would be weird. Like, I'm like, no, they gotta be big fat rocks.
They're big rocky boys.
Yeah,
They
and in
eat
Twilight
rocks.
Princess, they're literally sumo wrestlers. So
Yes, that's true.
Everyone's favorite Link, sumo wrestler Link.
This almost gives me a bit of more of an appreciation for Yunobo. Because that is the thing, is that he is a really powerful character. He has Daruk's protection, so he's basically
we had
invulnerable.
him on the podcast.
This is true. This is true as well.
Joe.
Jojo.
But that's the thing, is he's a big, strong Goron. He has Daruk's protection, so he's basically invulnerable to all attacks. To the point where he can be used.
He's invulnerable to
as
3 attacks.
He seemed to be able to do more than 3. I think that's Link's problem. But he can be used as a cannonball because he's so strong, and he just gets a little dizzy. But other than that, he's fine. But he's so cowardly compared to Link. And compared to
technically, Link isn't courageous at all. It's just he has the Triforce that makes him courageous.
I don't think Breath of the Wild Link has the Triforce.
No.
There's never any reference to him ever having it.
That's true. We see it on Zelda's hand, but
Yeah.
We never see it on Link's hand, and there's no reference to him ever getting it.
I also want to
we know
say,
he has the spirit of the hero though because he's able to pull the sword.
Yeah,
this is true.
I also want to say
If he has enough
with
hearts.
courage.
True.
So to be courageous, it's when you conquer your fear. Like you're afraid to do something, but you do it anyways. So if you aren't afraid of it, then you're not being courageous, because courageous would imply that you're doing something in spite of being afraid. So like when you go to play a movie on the TV, that's something that you're doing, but you're not courageous because you're not afraid of it. So there's no reason to be afraid of it is the example that I'm trying to use. And because you're not afraid of it, that's not being courageous. So if Link in all of the games wasn't afraid to go and do all of this stuff, then he wouldn't necessarily be being courageous because he just wouldn't care. So the fact that Link is being courageous through all the games implies that he is afraid, but he knows that he still needs to do it despite being afraid. So
That checks out. He's either a little kid going through horrible death traps and dungeons, or an adult going through places like the Shadow Temple, which are terrifying. So
With a kid's mind.
with a kid, yeah. So
yeah, because even when he's an
that
adult, he's
checks out.
still mentally like 10 years old.
At least that Link is, but
True, but I mean,
story.
even so. And there's actually, it makes me think there's a quote from Princess Diaries 1 and 2. It's Mia's
Okay.
father's quote, which is, I know, well, it has to do with courage. He says, courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the decision that something else is more important than fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wise words, Disney movie. Still
Yeah.
some of my favorite movies. I
Does
love them.
Ganon need the Triforce anymore? He looks like he's outgrown that. I don't think like Ganon gets. I think Ganondorf gets more powerful with the Triforce of Power, obviously. But even without it, like Twinrova was really powerful, and I would assume Ganondorf on his own would be even more powerful without the Triforce. And then he also, not only does he know the magic and everything, but he also has like the Spirit of Demise, who is also really powerful and never had the Triforce either. So I think he's extremely powerful without the Triforce, but I think the Triforce of Power just makes it so that like if you go to kill him or like he's about to die, it gives him enough power to like get back up, which is maybe why like Ocarina of Time, Ganondorf, if you kill him, he falls over dead. The castle falls down on top of him. He breaks through the rocks, and he's like, "Oh, my last breath," and then he turns into Ganon. And then the same with, like Twilight Princess, he turns into the Beast, and then turns back into a human. Wind Waker, he like goes through some weird forms and stuff. So I think it's like that. And then the possessing people, like possessing Zelda,
Yep.
holding Zelda back in Ocarina of Time. I think maybe that's stuff that he uses the Triforce for, because he never does anything like that before getting the Triforce. Although Twinrova does, like, take control of Nibiru. So that's just my thoughts.
Yeah.
To sum it all up, I don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah. What about you guys?
Sorry, I'm responding to someone.
Oh.
Anyway.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's no the only reference to the Triforce being in anyone's possession in Breath of the Wild is with Zelda.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any specific highlighted piece. I think she, and someone mentioned this in the chat as well. I think she has the whole collection of pieces in that game. The complete set, but that's just how she didn't age for 100 years. She's just looking
It's possible.
good skincare. So
Yeah, but going back to the Gorons, like
yes, Goron.
So in Twilight Princess, that's when they looked the most different. And I like some of the older Gorons, like I wasn't really a fan of how they looked, because they just looked awful to look at. By that, and even I think there was an old one in Majora's Mask, but looking at it, it's like
He was creepy looking.
yeah, like you look at it and it's not pleasant to look at, and some of them physically look like they're in pain because they're just constantly shaking and stuff, and I'm just like, why? Like I don't understand this.
The old one in Majora's Mask is really creepy. He has like hair covering his face, his bottom lip is sticking out, and he's playing the drums like this.
Yeah.
He's just so
And somehow
old.
he's the father of that really young Goron.
Yeah, I don't know.
That
How...
little Goron is annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to carry the frozen meat thing.
Sirloin rock.
Yeah, the top sirloin.
I'm like, I do like sirloin, but not rock.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a you problem.
Yeah. I don't like rocks. Are you telling me you eat rocks, Daniel?
No,
I hope not. Okay.
James in
I'm
the
not
chat
craving that
says,
mineral.
Could Calamity Ganon be a clone of Ganondorf? No, Calamity Ganon is just like Ganondorf, like reincarnated, or like coming back or whatever. It's not
As just rage and malice. And
yeah. The only other Ganondorf that
Craziness.
isn't the Ocarina of Time Ganondorf is Four Swords Ganondorf. No, is it Four Sword? Yeah, Four Swords. That's the only Ganon that isn't, or Ganondorf that isn't the other Ganon. I think it's Four Swords.
Adventure.
Yeah.
There's Four Swords, which is before Ocarina of Time. In the timeline, Four Swords Adventure is the one.
Yeah, so that was like fake Ganon, and then they also had like a design for the Ganondorf in that game, which was like a vampire-esque Ganondorf. You can go and look at the artwork. Yeah, I think we can move on to the next one. I want to message Joe and be like, hey, when you were doing your voiceovers, did you see any designs for like a different version of Unova?
But he didn't. He didn't though.
No,
because he didn't know who he was auditioning for.
No, but when he was doing the voices and having to match the mouth movements, like.
Well, then it would have already been created.
But they could like still have the same mouth movements and go back and like change certain physical appearances. So.
Yeah, I don't know. As far as I know, he mentioned it was that part of it had already been finished when they were going to record, right?
Yeah.
They were.
I guess. Yeah. I just want to see cool stuff.
I think one of the questions we asked him when we had him on was like if there were any, changes or things different.
Yeah. Scenes that he recorded that weren't in the game.
Which they probably couldn't answer that anyway.
In their head, they're probably like, yeah. But then they can't say.
They're like, no, I swear. There wasn't.
Or I think Patricia's answer was like, I don't remember, but even if I did, I couldn't tell you, which is probably how I would answer too. Just like, I don't remember. But if there was, I can't tell you anyway.
Daniel, would you like to take this Link's design? This was one that we excluded from the last podcast.
Okay.
Yes, for time reasons. Link's design. This article also comes from Go Nintendo. I think this is along the same lines. I think it's another interview from the Thingamajigger, the book.
Yeah, for some reason there's tons of interviews coming out from the book now, as opposed to when it originally released.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. But article says Nintendo considered having 100 redesigns of Link before settling on his appearance in Breath of the Wild. Wanted to go with a neutral approach. So Nintendo ditched a bunch of traditions and norms from the Legend of Zelda series when they created The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. One of the most challenging changes came from Link's redesign. While you can get Link's classic tunic and hat in Breath of the Wild, the character starts out looking quite different. In the Zelda Breath of the Wild art book, various devs on the project explained their new approach to Link. Also, as a side note, the very first Breath of the Wild trailer, though he's wearing almost the same outfit, the champion's tunic doesn't have the Master Sword design. It actually just has like some swirls and stuff. So even between that and the final game, it had changed as well, just as a side note. That's not part of this article. So Aonuma says, Link is the game's protagonist, so I've always thought we need him to look cool. Yet, if we overdo it, the people playing the game might feel like they're controlling an already accomplished hero, which I felt could get in the way of players immersing themselves in the game. For that reason, this time I decided we should make Link a more neutral character in a variety of ways. We thought that the iconic green tunic and hat had to become expected, so we wanted to mix things up and update his look. Interestingly, though nobody on the team said, let's make him blue, it just organically ended up that way. Satoru Takizawa says, producer Anuma-san declared that we would be revising expectations by updating Link for this game. He wanted Link to be a more neutral character that players could see themselves as. You can feel how energized and excited the artists were about this idea from the really interesting modern concepts they drew. They were close to 100 designs presented within the team for Link, and the number of sketches were too great to count. And Yoshiyuka Oyami said, I'm really hoping I'm getting these names right. Aonuma is the only one I'm confident with. The Link of this game was to be a traveler from the frontier who exudes a sense of adventure, which is why there are a lot of designs that feature capes and bags. At the beginning of development, we drew a lot of landscape shots. Link wearing blue clothes appeared pretty early on because the blue stood out against the backgrounds we were producing. Did you notice that the champion's tunic that appears on page 60, which we don't have an image of, has a different pattern on the chest than the one from the start of development? Since the tunic is unique to Link, it ultimately ended up being a symbolic representation of the Master Sword. The story behind the champion's tunic is touched upon in the second DLC, The Champion's Ballad.
That's exactly what you were just talking about.
Yeah, isn't
Yeah.
that funny?
Yeah.
Oops. Sorry for knowing things. And then
Also, in the GDC artwork that they showed off, we talked about GDC earlier. Yeah, the developers at GDC showed off a bunch of stuff. They even showed off like what Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess, and Wind Waker all looked like using the Breath of the Wild engine, which we ended up getting Wind Waker, but the remake of Twilight Princess didn't use the image, sadly. But during that same conference, they showed off a bunch of artwork of Link. One where he's like wearing a hoodie with a guitar and everything, and it just looks really weird.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so there were some really bizarre things where he looked like the stereotypical cool kid from a 90s movie, from like a high school or something.
He kind of looked like a mix between Zelda, or, well, Link, and Shaggy. Scooby-Doo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was
Also, I
like,
tried to
alright.
click through the source for the article to see if I could find the artwork. And it just takes me to a Nintendo Everything article with the same interview. Thanks,
Why?
GoNintendo.com. I always said you were a good website.
Yeah. So
And you betrayed me like this.
this also makes me like kind of scoff, I guess is the word, whenever, I don't know, maybe that's too strong of a word, when people are like, oh well, Link in Breath of the Wild has sideburns, so he's in the downfall timeline, because
That doesn't
only
make any sense.
games, like only Links in this timeline have that
Wind Waker
hairstyle.
Link has sideburns, and so
Yeah.
does Twilight Princess Link. They just all friggin' do.
Yeah, and I'm just like, well, the way he looks has nothing to do with which game that he's in. That, like right here,
Yep.
they say that they went with 100 different designs before they settled on one.
Yeah.
And the whole point was not to have it tied to a previous game, was to make him
Look
designed
different.
to look different from previous games. So trying to base his timeline placement on his design is illogical.
Yeah,
So there.
but there are weird people out there that they're a fan of an idea, and they would just work with it.
said a thing though
I know.
about his hat.
Yeah.
So therefore it's truth. His uncle works at Nintendo, don't you know? My uncle's cousins, doctors, dogs, veterinarians, cousins,
Our
farmers.
our podcast partner works at Nintendo.
that's true actually.
Yeah.
Things.
Yeah. All right. Anyways.
I will say that it's really amazing, like how they did end up making Link so very different looking in Breath of the Wild. Yet, even if I had never played Breath of the Wild, I would look at that and be like, "Huh, yeah, I guess that's Link." It's like it's recognizable for Zelda fans. It's like that's a reincarnation of Link for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like, wow, so different, so new, so fresh. Love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like the blue outfit, the whole champion's tunic thing. I think that
Yes.
really matched.
I was so iffy about that at first, and now I have my own champion's tunic, and it's like, well.
Nice.
Yeah, because to me it made it seem like whenever I first seen it, I was like, okay, well, in like Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword and Wind Waker, Link always started out with a different look, and then like after an hour or two, or in Wind Waker's case, almost immediately, you would get the tunic. Twilight Princess took a little bit longer. You had to save the Light Guardian, and Skyward Sword, you had to get the Goddess Sword. So those took like an hour or two to make your way there. But in Breath of the Wild, I thought it was going to be the same thing. Like, oh, well, we know that you start out on the Great Plateau, so maybe like once you are able to make your way off the Great Plateau, then maybe they give you the tunic. Or maybe I even have a video a long time ago that's like, yeah, you get all of these different spirit orbs. This is like months before we knew anything about the game. But I said like there's over 100 different shrines in the game. From what they told us, they have all of these spirit orbs. You collect these spirit orbs. Why? And then I guess that's because Twilight Princess HD had just came out, and they're like, you have the spirit of the hero. And then the guy gives you the tunic that belonged to the Ordona, I believe it was. Maybe it was Pharaon. Gives you the tunic of the past
It is
hero.
Ordona.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in my head, I was thinking of, okay, well, this light spirit says Link in Twilight Princess has the spirit of the past hero, so then gives him the tunic of the past hero. So in my head, I was thinking, okay, well, what if after you collect all of these spirit orbs and you prove yourself to be the hero, then just as with Twilight Princess, he gives you the tunic of the hero, which is almost exactly what happens. So that was a cool thing that I got right. I just didn't know that you would end up getting heart pieces and stamina and stuff from it. I just thought after you collected them all and proved yourself to be the hero, then you would get the tunic. And you do.
Yes.
But you also get like 10 other tunics in the game, so.
Yeah.
Yes, especially if you have
Ocarina.
Amiibo.
Yeah, Ocarina, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword. And it's like some of them are just a slightly different shade of green.
Yeah. But I know nothing about that or anything Amiibo related.
Yeah, you hate Amiibos.
Can't stand them. Never use them. Never buy them.
Don't have duplicates or anything like that.
This is my
No.
favorite Amiibo.
It's funny because it looks
It's
the one
it's
of the
literally
Amiibos
the
is
same design.
exactly that, but
Yeah,
They should
This
have
is
put
so much
an
nicer.
Amiibo thing like down here.
Oh,
That
they
way
should
you could
just-
just
it would
Yeah.
like cover your whole controller, gamepad.
yeah, and I don't know
whichever one
which
you're
way
using.
to put it. Like, because like if you put it straight, it's meant to be like this, but then like a lot of the details covered. So I want to turn it sideways. But then it's
Yeah.
like, which side way? Because you can see the shield and stuff this way, and this way you can't. So it's like, how do you set?
You
diagonal.
put it in the middle of the room so that you can go all
Yeah.
the way around it.
Put it
Put
on
it
like
on,
a
like, a
rotating
rotating-
yeah.
All right.
So you just
Well, there you go. That's way too big.
or I guess since we have this here, you would do it. Wait, which one? It's the right one? Yeah.
Yes.
so.
Well, no, on the Pro controller, it's on the middle of where the Switch logo is.
Okay.
Oh right, I don't have a Pro controller.
Yeah,
So
I have two, so that compensates, right? I got the Splatoon one.
I have
Oh,
a Breath of
that's
the
awesome.
Wild USB controller, and that makes me very happy.
all right, I think
Very pretty.
everyone's happy with Link's new design.
Yeah, it's all good
Yes.
in the hood. I really, really like it.
As long as they don't make him bald because he looked like Bobby Hill in that photo. Did you
Oh,
guys see
right.
it?
Yes. Someone hacked the game and just removed Link's hair, and he looks like Bobby.
Yeah.
from King-
And he has
Bobby.
like no features to where like you look at him and you're like, I don't know. He just looks plain, right?
Mhm. He looks neutral, as Aonuma would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Aonuma did say they purposefully wanted him to look more feminine so that girls could relate.
I feel like
Mhm.
first of all, I find that funny because I remember when I first played Twilight Princess, being like I look back on when I first played Twilight Princess, and I'm like, he doesn't need to look effeminate. I was very happy with Link from Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
Most
With
girls
his
were.
Link and his big lips.
I
I
personally
was just thinking about him in his sumo wrestling outfit.
So I really like the Twilight Princess Link look. I like Skyward Sword
Yeah.
Link as well. But one of my favorite designs is the Smash Bros. Wii U Link design. Because it's like it was a
Twilight
mix.
Princess Link.
No, it was like slightly different though. Like
It
if
was
you
just-
if you look at the artwork of that Link, maybe it's just because the artwork itself is a little bit more detailed. But they have the artwork where it's like a close up of Link's face and he just It looks really good.
It's just basically it's a sort of an amalgamation between Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword Link. Is how I interpreted it, because he's got all the design details of Twilight Princess, but he's got that sort of lighter green tone, on his tunic, like Skyward Sword.
And then
So
maybe
it's,
it's like the lighting in the game is different as well. So
Yeah, but I really like that design as well. He looks real good.
the
in
lighting
Wii
in a
Smash for Wii
game
U.
changes a lot.
Yes.
If you guys have
especially
ever that
Twilight Princess's lighting is very like unique to the series. So
well, I was gonna say like in Breath of the Wild, there's the parts in the game where you can go and like glitch out of the world or whatever. So like the lighting engine isn't hitting you, and it makes Link look like a wax figure. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
yes,
I've heard of it, or I think I've seen
There's
actually video footage
on
of
the
it.
bridge of Hylia.
Yeah.
I've tested it out, and it works. There's like a hole in the wall, and you can climb in it, and there's like a seam, almost where the lighting engine like ends.
Yeah, Lexi and I, we made a video on it a long time ago talking about it, and then I went there in the game to do it, and it's just weird.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's been fixed in an update either. Maybe Nintendo is just like, hey, this is how good we are with our lighting systems. Like, this is what the character model looks like normally, but we're so good we make it look 10 times better with just the lighting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So
That's true.
So if they made the next Zelda game, and it's like another game on its own, it's not a sequel to Breath of the Wild or anything, what Link model would you like to see it look the most like? Because I would go with probably Skyward Sword Link. Maybe not the baggy pants, but yeah.
I just want it totally new.
A completely new version of Link again.
I'm on the same page. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
Don't make him look too much like an old one. Recognize like what I said about Breath of the Wild Link. Recognizable as a Link protagonist, but unique to the game.
nice.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we can go on to the next thing, right?
Yeah. What's left?
Wind Waker.
Wind Waker.
How it was hated.
Yeah.
Why do people hate this game?
This actually
I
came
think I actually
from.
briefly mentioned this in a video I have coming up.
Appreciate art.
For the people wanting to know why the bananas keep getting mentioned in the chat, it's because it's kind of a running gag ever since the
E3.
LA podcast. Yeah. The Game Over Takeover LA.
Can't
And
wait
it
for
became even
volume
more
2.
so of one once I was asked to say it in German.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm awful.
So if you see someone referencing bananas in the chat, those are the hardcore fans of the podcast.
Die Banane.
Deep banana.
Cliff even made a custom emote for Discord. That was just the Mario Kart banana.
Die Banane.
Banana.
That's hilarious.
It's great. It's great.
Which is funny, when I spell it correctly, everyone's like, why are you saying die banana?
Die banana.
Or they'll be like, you said die banana, but you spelled banana wrong.
Yeah.
It says banane. And
So
I'm like,
a long time ago, there was
Who's banane?
well with die in German, not meaning death or whatever.
Sure.
At least for die banana, it's not meaning death to the banana, right?
it just means the.
Okay.
It's the feminine form of the.
Yeah. So, when I was younger, I dated a girl. I think maybe it was before high school. It could have been high school, but her name was.
Banana.
Her name was Dayoung.
Dayoung?
Die young?
She was Korean.
Like, I don't want to live to be old. I'm going to die young.
That's how it sounded when
I'm
you said her
assuming
name.
there's supposed to be an accent there. Dayoung.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But that was her name. I think it was spelled like Day Young, but it was pronounced Dayoung.
My professor had a student that he had to convince to have an American version of her name. He was like, I'm all for cultural name, but I don't think you understand how much you're going to be teased for your, I think it was Japanese name, because it'll be obvious when I say it. It's pronounced Shitin Kao.
No.
And she's like, no, I like my name. We need, and my professor's like, no, I understand. That is your Japanese, I think it was Japanese name, but I would encourage you to have another name. And all the other students are trying to explain to her like what that means and what it sounds like in English. And they explained to her after class. And she came back the next class. She was like, I am Sharon. We're going with Sharon.
Sharon it is.
So they're
Sharon
like,
is
okay,
Karen.
cool.
Oh no.
It's like she just kept saying, no, I am Shitin Kao. And my professor's like, no, trust me.
Oh no.
All I can find is it says Young. I couldn't find the actual spelling of Da Young. Her sister's name was Soo Young, and that appears to be like a really popular Korean name. But with Young, it just says is a romanized, a rare Korean family name, a single syllable unisex Korean given name, and a common element in 2-syllable given names. It's different meanings depending on which hanja is used to write it. So, yeah.
Wow.
That's always odd. Like whenever, like even with English names, whenever like if someone's named like Thomas or Kevin or Kyle or Jesse or Daniel or Ilya, it's like there are the meanings behind it. Like if you look back far enough, or like a lot of people get names from the Bible and stuff after like certain saints, but it's like, what if you just don't want a meaning? Like what if you just like, oh, I like the name, so I'm just gonna do that. I don't care what the meaning is. Like,
Oops.
You know, my name, I wasn't named because of anything. I was just named because they liked the name Jesse.
That's pretty much how I named my kid too.
It's like, oh.
Well, I really like it. It sounds smart.
You're
You're gone, Ilya.
muted.
Ilya's miming. Ilya, come back to us.
Yeah. You could
Is it there now?
you could get the role
Oh,
of
there you
Mime
are.
in the new Pokemon movie.
What?
You could get the
Mr.
role
Mime.
of Mr. Mime. Okay, so here's the thing. Mr. Mime. Pokemon have to say their name. That's how you know who they are or what they are. If Mr. Mime can't talk, how do they know to call him Mr. Mime?
They don't know. They just
don't.
call him Mr. Mime.
That's just what they call him because he can't tell us what his name really
What
is.
if it's a female?
Because
There's no Mrs. Mime.
maybe it's pillow talk, you know, because Mr. Mime and your mother are an item.
Wait, what were we talking about? Wind
Have you
Waker?
seen this thing? There's a
Names.
Pokedex entry where it mentions that sometimes young children get jealous of Mr. Mime after Mr. Mime marries their mothers.
There is some
There
heckin'
is
disturbing
Hold on.
entries in the Pokedex.
Hold
There,
on.
this is a
Pokedex?
real thing in the Pokedex. Mr. Mime likes the MILFs. Okay? He's hide your mother at home while you go out
Hide your
Pokemon
kids,
hunting.
hide your wife.
Don't let Mr.
Also,
Don't
this
take
is-
Mr.
this is
Mime
my
home to meet your
background.
parents. I like it.
Nice.
Yeah. What do you guys have as
I'll-
the backgrounds?
Here I'll show you. Mine is also Breath of the Wild artwork.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I like
Mine
it.
is a picture of a church that my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather built.
Nice. I was gonna look
Wow.
up that Mr. Mime thing.
Good job.
but I can't. I don't want
I
to
know
take the
he's
time.
he built a lot of things in the neighborhood. Oh, but my other background is the ocean.
Nice.
Oh.
I took that picture.
Yeah. So we can start the Wind Waker thing now, right?
See.
What's
Yes.
the chat saying? Well, then we know.
They
Ash is-
say now we know who Ash's father is.
No, Mr. Mime didn't come into the picture till Ash was gone.
Yeah, no, Mr. Mime comes in after they're a single mother. When they're
Maybe
already
all
a
the
mom.
moms just send their kids off so they can bring in Mr. Mime.
And now I hope, oh, go off, go get some Pokemon. Please bring back Mr. Mime. Get me a Mr. Mime. Okay, and then so I read that Pokedex thing, right? And then I later was like online and I saw a screenshot of like from the anime where Ash is riding in the car and it's like Ash and then Ash's mom and then Mr. Mime sitting beside Ash's mom with like his hand on her lap, like one hand on her leg, and I'm just like, yo, Ash's mom is a freak.
All right. Anyways, hello everyone, and welcome to the Hylian Gamescast episode 66. Our topic of discussion today is why did everyone used to hate the Wind Waker? Now, we've seen this kind of go away, especially recently with Wind Waker HD. Everyone's been praising the art style. There's even been a ton of people come out saying they hate the Wind Waker HD art style because it ruins how great the original Wind Waker looks, which is kind of odd for me. I can see that look on Ilya's face there. To me, like, I think they just took the look, made it a bit brighter, but there's people that said they add too much bloom and everything. So anyways, the point is,
There's no pleasing some people.
when Wind Waker was originally released, everyone hated it so much. Now, personally, I liked it. I know a lot of other people liked it, which is why it's so great now. A lot of people look back, have fond memories of it, but when it first released, there were tons of people, even in Japan, but it was mostly the Western audience, like America, Canada, Mexico, even parts of Europe, like Germany, England. Everyone basically hated the art style, so much so that while they were in the middle of developing Wind Waker 2, not Phantom Hourglass, which was a direct sequel to Wind Waker, but an actual Wind Waker 2 for the Gamecube, while they were in the middle of development, I think interviews say that the president of Nintendo for Nintendo of America got all of the feedback from all of the different countries, like from North America and parts of Europe, and sent the feedback to Japan. And Japan instantly stopped development of Wind Waker HD and made the art style literally the complete opposite because fans hated it so much. Now, there's probably tons of people that have already commented that you always loved the art style. Again, so did we. So
they're there.
Don't hate on us for saying this. We're just saying that people used to think this. So, we ended up getting Twilight Princess, which was, again, literally the exact opposite art style. It was dark, gloomy, realistic, instead of, like, bright, colorful, and cartoony. So, yeah. I just think it's odd. Why did people hate it? Well, whenever Space World 2000 came, I'll have this up on the screen for people that's watching the edited version and not the live podcast version, but there was at Space World 2000, the same year, probably before Majora's Mask even came out, which they even had the Hero Shield in this demo. They had Adult Link fighting against Ganondorf in the style of Ocarina of Time, but it was updated to graphics that the GameCube was capable of, as opposed to the standard polygonal look that you have from the Nintendo 64's Ocarina of Time. So it was this more updated version, more realistic looking version of an Ocarina of Time boss fight where Link and Ganondorf were in an actual sword battle. It wasn't just knocking the ball back and forth like you get in the final game. It's literally a sword fight. And so everyone was looking forward to this, and then we ended up getting Majora's Mask. And after working on Ocarina of Time and then Majora's Mask, which had the same art style, they worked on that demo that they showed off, which was just a better version of that same art style. They ended up deciding, since they'd already done 3 things in that art style, even Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons that came out, the artwork for it was in a similar art style as well. Minish Cap also used a similar art style. Just talking about the artwork specifically, obviously the games were like 8 and 16-bit, 32-bit, whatever, but just the artwork was all in the Ocarina of Time style. So when it came time for Wind Waker, Nintendo was tired of that same art style. They wanted to move on. And one of the developers just doodled the toon version of Link, and they ended up liking it so much they went with it. And then whenever they showed off at Space World 2001 the following year, everyone was expecting, oh, we're going to see more of that awesome Ocarina of Time 3 game, or whatever it could have been. But instead they got this cartoony thing where Link has like tons of emotions on his face. There's these weird boar people chasing him with spears, and basically everyone hated it. The exact opposite of what happened when they showed off Twilight Princess at E3 a few years later. Because whenever they showed that off, everyone like stood up, cheered. It was crazy. It was like the best applause and support that any game had ever seen at E3. You can find videos of it online, but with Wind Waker it was the exact opposite, and people hated it so much that the sequel got cancelled, and they ended up making Twilight Princess and Phantom Hourglass. So that is the story of basically why people hated Wind Waker. Presumably, if Majora's Mask would have never released, then without working on a new game with the same art style as Ocarina of Time, Nintendo may have not gotten tired of the art style, and then Wind Waker would have been possibly a game that looked like what we seen with the GameCube Zelda tech demo, as opposed to the cartoony art style. But because we got Majora's Mask, we got the Wind Waker. So, what do you guys think about all this? Do you remember any of the hate long ago when Wind Waker released? I know a lot of people didn't have computers or internet way back then. I know I didn't, but I still had friends who had a computer with internet, and I remember like going online and seeing it, and even one of my cousins, I had him over, and I was playing the Zelda Collector's Edition, which had the Wind Waker demo. And when people, or whenever he would play it, and like the bomb would explode and it would make like the cartoony swirls, he was like, this looks stupid. So even firsthand, I met people who were not a fan of the graphics of the Wind Waker, the cartoony art style. So
Yep. My eldest brother refused to play it. I mean, he's more of an Xbox person anyway, as is my other brother. They're more Xbox, PlayStation, but he refused to play it because he was like, that's not how Zelda is supposed to look. My
It's like,
other
no,
brother
'cause
was
that's
like,
Link.
Supposed to look.
Zelda's the
Yeah, I know.
princess. Link's the... No, it's a bad
Well,
joke, I'm sorry.
then my other brother, who's like, he'll play like Nintendo games, like if we're out and playing them, like Mario Party and Mario Kart. For him, he was the one that got the game. It was technically his GameCube, and he actually bought Animal Crossing as well, so he's responsible for my crazy love of that. Anyway, when he got it, he was like, it plays like Zelda and it's fun. What do I care? He's never been a fan of the lore or anything like that. He's just like, I just want a fun game. That's all he cares about. Whereas for me, even though I had seen and played a little bit of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, I was so young, I wasn't super into it. Wind Waker was the one that I was like, whoa, this is a good game and I really, really like it. And I think there's actually comments from the developers saying that Wind Waker was the one that got a lot of their like wives to start playing. Their wives were like, wow, this is really pretty looking, and they wanted to start playing, and they started playing Zelda games after that. And I'm like, I can see why. It's I don't want to say it's more inviting them more than other Zelda games, but because it has the lighter look to it, even though it has very dark moments, story-wise, it is a very inviting game. The music, everything about it, which is why it's one of my top 3 favorite games. But yeah, I do remember the hate because you just had like layers of it in my family. You had my eldest brother who was like, no way, that's not Zelda as I want it to be. My other brother who was like, it's fun, what do I care? And me who was like, wow, I really, really like this. I like the other games too, but this I really like. I like Twilight Princess 2 a lot, but you know, I'm glad we have both. They're both great.
Yeah, and with Wind Waker, a lot of people don't realize this, but Wind Waker was the game that started, basically, it would have happened eventually, likely, but I look at it as the game that began all of the different art styles for the Zelda series, because aside from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, you never really see games that reuse the exact same art style. And that only happened because they had a bunch of stuff left over from Zelda, and they only had a year to make the game. So with Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, I look at them as like manga style Zelda games. And then Wind Waker, you get cartoony. Twilight Princess, you get realistic. Skyward Sword, you get the painting. Breath of the Wild, you get an anime. So literally with every Zelda game, each one looks different from all of the rest. And it's one of the only video game series that ever does this. With like Call of Duty or Final Fantasy, it always looks the exact same, just better. Like a little bit more detail, a little bit more realistic or whatever. It never completely changes. Even Mario games, Metroid games, all of the Metroid Primes just looked more and more detailed. All of the Mario games look very, very similar. But with The Legend of Zelda, like, you could look at two different games, like Wind Waker and Skyward Sword, or Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, and it looks completely different, but you can still look at it and be like, oh, that's Link, that's Zelda, that's Ganondorf. So it's really cool. And even with
sorry.
I was gonna say, even with Ganondorf's appearance, like in Twilight Princess and Ocarina of Time, it's not just the art style that's different. Ganondorf is like big and muscular and stuff in those games, but then Wind Waker, he's a bit chubbier. So it's like, even though the art style is completely different, even though he physically looks completely different, he's shorter, he's bigger, he's less muscular, but yet you can still look at it and be like, yeah, that's Ganondorf. So
Oh yeah. And I personally think, as much as I love what they fixed with Twilight Princess HD, sorry, I thought I heard something really weird. I don't know what that is. Okay, sorry. Wind Waker seems to have aged a little better. I know that whenever going back to Twilight Princess very, very recently, like a few days ago, I think it was like Christmas Day, I went back to it. It was very jarring. I still love the game. I still love playing it. I love the music, and I love playing it. But going back to Wind Waker is never quite as jarring to go back to after a while, because you're just like, oh yeah, Wind Waker. It can stand the test of time a little bit better. That doesn't make Twilight Princess a bad game. I'm just saying, in defense of the graphics.
There are even games that release now that use a similar art style to the Wind Waker, like Ni no Kuni is a game that uses the Wind Waker art style, to where it's just cel-shaded cartoon graphics, but it's on the PlayStation 4 and like the newer generation of consoles. So it uses the power of current generation console to make it look even more like you're watching like a cartoon or an anime or something. So with that said, it only looks like slightly better than what Wind Waker HD looks like on a console that's a lot less powerful compared to the PlayStation 4. So even though like one is on a console that uses a lot more graphical power, because of the art style itself, it doesn't necessarily look a lot better, because even the original looks great. To whereas if you go with the realistic art style like Twilight Princess, when you make something realistic and then you make something realistic on a new generation of consoles, there's a huge difference, because you can add in a lot more detail and everything. But with Wind Waker, the entire point of the art style is basically the lack of the detail, because everything's like a solid cel shaded color. So I think that's why it looks so great and it's easy.
Yeah. I think part of, further to your point, Ilya, about it, sort of the jarring nature, going back to a game like Twilight Princess, is like when we think of Wind Waker, we remember it and think of it as this cartoony game, and that's how it's always been. When Twilight Princess came out, it was like, okay, this is what's realistic graphics for the time, but that bar of what is considered realistic graphics is constantly moving, right? So the game stays here, but that bar keeps getting raised. So if you spend all this time and you're going up with this bar, and then you go back to this game and it's low, it's like a below bar then suddenly. Versus this game that you never expected to be realistic in the first place, there's that jarring feeling isn't there. Yeah. It's just like it's exactly how you remember it then. And I think that's part of why Wind Waker's aged so much better than Twilight Princess, in my opinion, graphically speaking. This is strictly talking about visuals.
Yeah.
I remember when it would like being also have a similar thing. Some of my siblings complaining about it, and lots of people at school complaining about it. I was still in elementary school, I think, when it came out, and I remember there was like this divide between people who were like, "Oh, I'm like a true Zelda fan. I like the old games they look so much better," and people who were like, "Well, Wind Waker's fun," and it was just like this weird rivalry.
Yeah.
I think for myself, I was skeptical at first, like right up until I started playing the game, and then I did not have a worry about the graphics at all because it's still Zelda. It's still great. So
You can't help but love Wind Waker. It's so pretty, and the
It is.
music. I love the music.
Yeah, no, the music is really good, and I think one of the things Wind Waker has a lot of little attention to detail, even just like the way the weather changes. Weather does not change all that much in other 3D Zelda games, but it changes a lot in Wind Waker, and like even just like the way how strong the waves of the ocean are when the weather changes, and things just drops on the water. All these little details are fantastic in that game. And I think the biggest thing for me that I will think a lot of people most fondly remember is Wind Waker. Unlike, I think, not to say that other Zelda games don't have this, but Wind Waker has this great vibe of adventure. Like there's this great sense of adventure that is not as present in some of the other Zelda games. Not to say this not there. Twilight Princess has its great moments too, but Wind Waker has, I don't know, it just is like, this is an epic adventure. You're going off and exploring and adventuring. And Twilight Princess is like more, again, and this is not a dig at Twilight Princess, a great game in its own right, but it has more of a sense of like a subdued story with a progression rather than just like this big overarching adventure. I don't know. What? That's a shirt.
I said that's Daniel.
I'm not a shirt. I'm a person. Yo. A Moo in the chat says his little legs though. I do find that always a little funny. Waker Link has just little
and then
small
when
legs.
they raise their hands up, like your elbow is supposed to go to the top of your head, but like their hands go to here.
His hands like here.
Yeah.
Especially when he yawns, he's like.
Oh, the proportions are really high.
I bet whenever they first made it, his hands couldn't do that, so they got to the scene where you have to like hold up the Rito girl, whatever her name is.
Natalie.
Yeah, so like you have to hold her up, and they're like, wait, his hands can't go above his head. So they're like, make his hands longer.
Just make it a little bit longer.
Just stretch them.
Whereas like Ocarina of Time Link picking up Princess Ruto is like actually all the way up here.
It's true.
Also, speaking of adventure, because I just made it's not up, but a video recently about Wind Waker music I really like. The Great Sea is a very adventurous theme. But for some reason, whenever I hear it, it reminds me of Pokemon.
I love the Wind Waker credits theme.
It's good too.
If you listen
the
to
Wind
the
Waker what theme?
Credits theme, when you're letting the title play, because it goes through like Zelda's Lullaby and some of the other songs. But then it has its own unique stuff as well. I love, Apple says, I love how expressive and full of like Wind Waker Link is too. I miss in the other games where Link is more stoic. So one interesting thing is that in Wind Waker, they said they went with that art style as well because they wanted to be able to have Link show more emotion. Which is almost exactly what they said with Breath of the Wild, where they said that they felt if they gave him too much emotion, then people wouldn't be able to relate with him. And it's like, it's the exact opposite of what you said about the Wind Waker. You purposefully wanted him to show more emotion. That way, when something happens in the game and the player gets excited, Link can show that he's excited instead of... where like something crazy happens and then Link just looks at it with a blank face. It's like, yeah, you can put your emotion on their face when it's blank, but it's better if something spooky happens and Link looks like he's scared, or if something awesome happens and Link's like, oh my gosh. Like in Skyward Sword had the perfect moments to where like going into the Earth Temple or one of the fire dungeons, as Link's walking down the steps after he first opens the door, all of the heat's rushing out. So like Link's covering up his face and like making like his face looks like he's kind of in pain from like all the heat burning him, and he has his hands over it, and it's like that's what I would expect him. I wouldn't expect him just to walk down with a blank face and be like, yeah, it's another dungeon.
Yeah.
Like, what do we get to kill this time? Is it another Dodongo? I'm full already.
Also, Wind Waker Link meows.
He does.
That's true.
He does. And he says,
Come on!
yeah, come on. Yeah, so Wind Waker Link actually talks. Stop expecting Japan to make sense, Jesse. What?
Good point.
What's this? Show.
I could chime in on the Mr. Mime chat. A little bit delayed.
Melon speed runs. Like, are you talking about this face? And it has Link like falling after Zelda pushes him off, and he's like, "I don't have a loft wing, you crazy woman." He also said earlier, did you know that Mako's sword from Pirate Stealing Bombs cutscene has a very unusual texture? No, I did not. I'll look that up.
I need to take a look for that. I'm gonna
Mako's sword.
to Google it.
I had a dream about the
there's
Skyward Sword. I think I
Mako-
told y'all about it a few weeks ago.
Mako from Samurai Jack. What was your Wind
Find
Waker
this.
story, Ilya?
Mako's sword, Wind Waker.
No, Skyward Sword. I had that theme was one of my dreams like last week or 2 weeks ago or something. Remember I said Bruce kept flirting with me and I was really confused.
Yeah.
I was just like, what
Were
are
you
doing?
Zelda in the dream?
No, I was friends with her though.
Oh, okay.
She and I, that Zelda and I would
Did
get
she
along.
get jealous? Because, like, she did have, like, the most popular guy in school flirting with her, but now that you're there, he's not flirting with her. So she's like, you're taking away all my fun. It's like, yeah, it sucks when he's always mean to people, but when he flirts with me, it makes me feel better. And now you're here, and he doesn't do that. Go away. Maybe
No,
I'll push
she and
you
I were
off of
friends.
Skyloft.
I did fall off Skyloft and was trying to call my loft wing and nothing was happening. Link
And
saved
then
me.
The real... Oh, Link saved you. Okay. I was going to say, like, maybe the cool guy saved you.
I had a purple loft wing though. We eventually found it, and I had a purple loft wing, and I was like, "This is heckin' cool." I'd prefer pink, but you know.
It sounds really cool. I can't find Mako's sword. I'm sorry.
I'm just pulling up the cutscene.
Yeah, I tried.
So it's
looking
in
for
the
artwork.
cutscene. It has the thing. I'm gonna watch it at 2 times speed here. Let's see if we can find this unusual texture.
You could tell us what it is, Mr. Melons.
Yes, tell us. Is it a melon texture?
Let's see. DM'd it to you. You won't find it on Google. It's an exclusive bit just for you. Wink. Okay.
What?
I assume you. Okay, so I'm on Discord with video chat, so I can't look at Discord, but I can look on my phone.
Use your phone. It's not in the cutscene there, or what? I'm confused about that. This sounds like if I can't find it in the cutscene, does that mean that this is going to be a boundary break thing?
Okay, so Melon, do you mean that it uses the same texture as that second picture? Like it's the same color and texture and stuff? Is that what you mean?
What's the picture though?
Let me send it to you guys. Alright. Now check check the chat.
I'm checking the chat.
Me too.
It looks like a sword.
Yeah, but like the second picture. Like I think he meant that it uses the
Oh,
okay. So look what he says in the chat. Like it's the raw image. So it uses the same.
That's kind of funny. Like it just looks like a normal sword, but then it's like, oh, it's a. Oh, that's neat. It's a Gamecube logo.
You broke the secret.
I broke the secret. No, delete it from the podcast. Delete me. Ah.
Whoa, he actually left. Hi, Ilya.
I'm so confused.
I like your
I have brought
Ravenclaw.
shame. I have brought shame to my family.
Someone in the chat said I could pass for Zelda's sister, and I was like, that would be an interesting story if Zelda actually had a sister, and she becomes the villain because she doesn't have the
Well,
Triforce of Wisdom.
We did
That's kind of
just
Zelda 2
make a
plot.
video about someone potentially being Zelda's sister.
I've
It-
seen
it-
that theory too.
You-
And then, I mean,
you were
Zelda
in
did have a
that
brother who
theory.
was not very great.
Yeah.
Was that Zelda 2?
That
Yeah.
was Zelda 2's backstory.
Did you learn that from the video too?
No, I didn't
Oh,
know that.
yeah. A lot of people forget
She
that
knew.
Link. Well, a lot of people forget there was like a prince in Hyrule. They always just think like,
Ever.
I'm glad to catch you live, Jesse. Thank you, Eugene. The person who used to, at all of my brother's basketball games, because he played basketball for like 20 years, through like from elementary school, like as soon as he could begin in 3rd grade, all the way to like past college, he played basketball. So,
Wow.
but the guy that used to like keep all the scores and the rebounds and who passed the ball and who did this and who did that, his name is Eugene. And he was the guy that would always like keep track of everything.
But now that he's caught you live, Jesse,
Yeah.
it's time to die.
No. Alright, so back to Wind Waker. One ironic thing is like a lot of people look at it, it's like, oh, it's too childish for me. And I'm like, it literally has the most brutal ending ever. Link. So in Ocarina of Time, Link stabs Ganon in the face. That's fine.
Who's a
It's
beast?
it's a beast demon king person. But this is just a human. He jumps in the air like 50 feet and comes down and like stabs the sword like all the way through his skull, his throat, his neck, his chest. And then he's just like, all right, give me my bubbles. And then he just floats to the surface.
Bubbles! Now I'm thinking of finding you.
Yeah.
The wind,
And the king's like,
it blows.
yeah, the king's wish is stupid too. He's like, allow these people to find like,
Give them hope.
yeah, to find a new kingdom or whatever. And it's like, no, just be like, hey, take all this like give us the old Hyrule back. You know?
But then again, you would uproot everyone that's so used to the living that they have now with the islands.
They could just
So
move
be
to
like,
the
let's just
ocean.
go with what we have.
What would all the fishermen do?
Well, fish, right?
You can't fish if you take the ocean away.
You don't take the whole ocean away. You just like
Take it away. No more ocean.
And then you force the Rito to de-evolve.
No
well,
more ocean.
They did it once. they can do it again.
I mean, Breath of the Wild has both, so.
Yeah. But then like there's the thing that hints that like the Zora in Breath of the Wild aren't the original Zora. They like came from a different land. If you read those text blocks that are like it
Yeah.
gives the history of the Zora, it mentions that like long ago the Zora evolved into the Rito and then like a new tribe came in or whatever. So
Those Zora are huge.
it makes me
They're
think
the big
that
boys.
like the new Zora coming in are from like the Zora from the other timeline like merging in. This is how I took it.
When the old Dragon Break thing happens, you know, because that's a thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it
But
is.
no, that's
it is. It's debated whether or not Breath of the Wild has one. People can be on whatever side, but it is actually confirmed that the Zelda series has had dragon breaks because of Majora's
Yep.
Mask. So like it is confirmed that the series does do it, which is why I had to like throw away one theory a long time ago.
I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't that. It was someone wrote it. And it's like if you toast bread and then you eat cereal, you can't have both if you don't have any. And I'm like, this doesn't. No. It was stupid.
What?
It was really really stupid. You know the one that I had you read the Zelda lines for, and then I had Connor read the actual theory.
Yeah, yeah.
I wrote that because this other theory that someone had given me was so horrible. I used none of it.
So you wrote like an anti-theory?
Yeah. I was
Like-
originally trying to correct it. And then
Yeah.
no, like at first I think like I was confident in the person. So like he sent the theory and then I just sent it to Connor and he recorded it. And he sent it back, and I was listening to it, and I was like, did he read what was in the script? So I went back and looked at the script, and I was like, no wonder Andy in the Chamber of Sages never used this script, because it was so horrible.
Yep.
And then I just rewrote the entire thing and actually used interviews and stuff, so it made sense, because the way this guy was talking, he literally had that example. If you eat toast in one timeline and you eat cereal in another timeline, and then in the third timeline you eat nothing, it's impossible to have eaten all of it and blah blah blah. And it's like, no,
That sounds like they're just not being open-minded.
yeah, that's like,
About-
that's literally the entire purpose of Majora's Mask, is like, you do these things to get a certain mask, and then you travel back in time, yet you still have that mask despite not doing those things. You just don't have rupees or arrows or anything.
What it sounds like is when there's this fun game my friend and I used to play
Oh, did you
on your
guys used to
iPhone
travel
when
back
you
in
start
time?
typing. No,
Okay.
on the iPhone when you start typing a sentence, it gives suggestions. There's like 3 suggestions for words, and you just keep hitting the middle button to make a sentence. That's what it sounds like this person did. They typed like, "This theory is," and then just kept hitting the
Like,
middle button.
breakfast, toast, cereal, ate nothing.
Exactly.
Basically. It was, yeah. And then...
I hope they're not watching this stream right now.
No, after that, that's when I started just writing my own stuff again, exclusively, instead of using things that other people suggest. Because it wasn't Hyrule or Low-Relian Historian. It wasn't him. It was just someone else that, like, they gave me control of the Chamber of Sages, this guy was like, I used to write for the Chamber, but they never used my stuff, but I still have the script.
If you wrote for them and then they never used what you wrote, that means you did not write for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That means
you tried to,
tried to,
but they
yeah,
decided
you
not to use it for certain
almost
reason.
did. It's like
That's like-
I wouldn't say that I edited for certain channels that I was in cahoots with or talked
Well,
to just because I talked to them.
You edited the video for the Chamber that never got used, and then
That's true.
I had to buy it from the person who wrote it.
But I did edit some other videos for them as well, though. So I
Yeah.
could still say that I did work for the Chamber Stages.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it would be like me putting on a resume, I was basically played this role because I was considered for this role because I auditioned.
Yeah, but not the same thing.
Yeah.
I basically played Laura in the Glass Menagerie because I went to an audition for the Glass Menagerie and I was definitely considered for Laura.
Mhm.
Therefore,
I'm
I
George
played
Clooney.
Laura.
I am George Clooney. that's me.
No, I'll send you guys the original script later. The only thing
Okay.
I used from it wasn't even something that person had written, because it was just a quote from the Japanese version. So it was just like text from the game that you could just Google and get, was the only thing that I used, because it was the only thing that actually made sense, because it was the only thing that actually came from the game. Because like I was reading it and I was like, this person just didn't even play the game. Like, this doesn't make
Okay.
sense at all.
But Jesse, if Toad wears his pajamas and he's actually an ant in a mushroom hat,
Toad has no head, right?
Toad has no head. He's actually 100 spiders in a
Daniel
man
is
costume.
frozen in his own timeline.
Oh no! Oh no!
No, you're not frozen to me.
I'm
All
not.
right, so
I'm not
Wind
frozen.
Waker. Does anyone have any final things before we move on to the Zelda questions? Everyone in the chat, this is where you can post your Zelda questions to get them answered. So
Yes.
get them ready, so we don't have something where we're just sitting here waiting for questions, because that sucks. All right.
Because
That one.
sometimes we get questions and they're weird ones that we answered.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes none of our patrons send us
Yeah.
questions.
They send us
Sometimes.
a few dollars, but they don't send in the questions or ask for the
Like,
things.
dude, take advantage.
But
Yeah.
sometimes we get too many questions.
Because Ilya got super excited
No middle ground.
when we used hers.
It's true.
Oh yeah, mine would get used a lot actually.
Yeah.
I would
'cause
always wait
you
till I
didn't
had a
put
good
stupid questions.
Oh yeah, or questions we've already answered 100
Yeah.
times.
What do you want for the next Zelda game?
We've already answered that so many
Hookshots.
times. Please don't ask.
We can only say hookshot so many times.
Or dungeons.
Underwater
Dungeons,
exploration.
Yeah, well, we've
Alright.
done that one a lot. Yeah,
Ilya, do you want to do the intro?
bananas.
The intro?
We
Sure.
want bananas. New member.
Welcome, new member.
I don't know what that means.
What does that mean?
I've never actually heard
Melon
of that.
Speedrun, what did you just do?
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, what does that mean, new
Did I
member?
do it right?
I don't-
What'd you do, man?
I
What are
don't
you a
know.
member of? What are you a member of?
No.
What did you do? We've never seen that before.
That's a new one. Oh,
Did you become a Patreon? Is
Hold
that
on.
why it says that?
Does it?
What
Does Patreon, is that linked to your
new
YouTube chat?
member
I don't know.
mean in YouTube chat?
We gotta Google it.
Yes.
you broke the system.
No.
No,
Girls,
he's not a Patreon.
I posted in Discord. Did you post it in Discord in the Zelda mailbag chat in Discord? Let's
Is
this-
see.
I can't look because
I broke YouTube. I have no idea what I did. Help.
what did you do? What did you really do? Like I don't tell us. Did you?
Tell us, what did you do? Oh no.
But look at what
I
it
have
says
a
member at
badge
the
now.
top. It's like going down.
It's going. He's running out of time.
So Jin in the chat also congratulations on your almost newborn baby.
Oh,
You looked
yay.
amazing in the picture you posted. But did you guys see the picture? She posted it in the
No.
selfies, arts, and pics. It's just like her with her
Okay,
like
look
her
now.
pregnant stomach. I paid sub to you.
Pretty sure that's a picture of a cat.
He subscribed. And he gave me shit. I think I know what you mean. So like you can sponsor a YouTube channel on YouTube.
Oh.
You're apparently the first person to ever do this, so we don't know what's
Yeah.
going on. We have Patreon supporters. That's what we were talking about. But this works too, I guess. I don't know what it means though. Anyways, Ilya, would you like to start the thing?
The intro
Also,
for the
Jen,
mailbag.
get your question ready. And Colin, we
also-
might answer that as well.
Mailbag stuff. Spro's Nest asked about posting in Discord. Make sure you guys post it in the hashtag Zelda mailbag chat on Discord. I'm gonna also post that because I noticed there's people putting their questions in,
How
but
do you
just
do
in the
that?
social channel. So if you go to Discord,
Yeah.
on the left side of where all the channels are, it should be under general. There's the social channel, there's selfies, arts, and pictures. There's the podcast channel, and there's a Zelda mailbag channel. That's where you're gonna want to put your questions there. I see Spro's Nest is already typing, so I'm just gonna put that.
If you want to, Melon, you can be a part of the next podcast because that's a Patreon thing. So,
Yes.
It's true.
all right. So everyone, get your questions ready. Ilya.
Get them ready.
Yep, I am ready. Are y'all ready?
No, I'm out of
I'm
Gatorade.
ready.
Oh. When do I start?
Do you want to
then?
hear my ASMR?
Yes. Ooh. Mmm. That is some ASMR.
It sounds like people doing with their mouth open, which I
That is
Chewing in
also an
general.
ASMR.
And I'm just gonna scoop up some of these questions from the Discord and put them
Hey,
in our
and the chat.
Google Doc.
Dawn.
Yeah, a lot of people are
Dawn
asking.
says
in chat,
Jesse.
actually.
Wild Horse says hi. Wild Horse. For those who don't know, we gave a shout out at the very beginning because she was in a coma. Now she's better. So, yes, we
Yes.
we love Wild Horse. One of our
Ooh.
biggest fans, best fans.
Yes.
Yeah.
So very very happy that she's getting better. This is her nurse. Well, hello, nurse. Nurse Tina.
Wow. Hello.
That's very kind of you to like text and stuff for her.
Yeah.
All right, Ilya, start. So we can stop
Yes,
goofing
I
off
am
and get
ready.
to why people
What's
are
goofing?
watching. Goofing
Okay.
is
You
what
guys
we've
ready?
been doing for the past 30 minutes. Yeah.
Y'all ready?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's me, Ilya Rose, the Geek Apprentice, and I am on the podcast, the Hylian Gamescast specifically, with Daniel and the main guy himself, Jesse, Game Over Jesse, for the Zelda mailbag where we answer your questions. Lots of different questions, and we try to answer your questions, and sometimes there's too many questions and we can't answer them all. But if you want to guarantee that your question will be answered, then you can become an awesome Patreon supporter like these people: Wild Horse 64, Samuel Ranjamin, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Foxo, Andrew,
I think he said to just
Jonathan.
pronounce it as Ren.
Okay, Ren, Foxo, Andrew, Jonathan, David, Amanda, Jacob, which is funny because I have a couple friend who they're the man and wife, they're Amanda and Jacob, which is really funny. Derek, Blargnar, Michelle, Mandy, Michael, Elmer, Bootleg Boy, Vortex, Gus, Monica, Link used the Triforce, Lunarium, Shadow 2S, Rusty, and Lovable Christy. Yeah. So we're going to answer your question. I said David.
You said David, but your Southern came out to play for a moment.
Southern.
Southern Ilya,
David.
David.
David. Yeah. This is why I have so much trouble doing other accents, because when I try to do like British or something like that, sometimes it comes out Southern, and I'm like,
A Southern British accent.
which a Southern British is technically Cockney. Be
Cockney.
Because it's like broken British, which is like Southern is like broken American almost.
Yar.
Yeah.
But is Southern English like actually the southern part of England, or is it like, would they call it like all those northern English people, like they talk?
Are you talking about Cockney? It's called Cockney.
Yeah, but like would they like, would the area that speaks that be located in the South, like in America, or would it be
I
like
have no
Eastern
idea.
or Western or Central or?
No idea.
All right.
They're just people with Cockney accents.
All right. Well, what is our first question?
Do we have
Good
any that are from Patreon supporters?
I can't look right now.
I don't.
If Tina's got a question from Wild Horse, then seriously, that would be great. Because
Yay.
we want to say hello, but I think in our little collection that we've got so far, I don't think any of them are patron questions. So
No. I don't know. I saw a question earlier in the YouTube chat, but now I don't know where it is.
Oh no!
Oh, here it is. I actually found it.
Found it. Okay.
So earlier in the YouTube chat, I think it's Mrs. or Mr. Slayer. That might be it. Maybe instead of Mrs. Yalayer, it might be Mr. Slayer. Anyway, that person asks, do you think that Linkle should be available as an alternate female player option in future games? I could see a lot of people liking this. I personally wouldn't use it. I don't think I would care. But, and so it's not a matter of do I think it should. I'm indifferent to it. I'm like, I don't think it's necessary, personally. So, yeah.
Wait, what was it again?
Should Link be
Linkle.
a female alternative? Linkle. Or yes, yeah. Linkle be an alternative female version. Like, kind of like in the Pokemon games, you can be female or male. Well, in the beginning you couldn't of the Pokemon.
It's really
series, but now you
funny
can.
because a long time ago I made a video talking about an Aonuma or Miyamoto interview where he was like, well, it was that statement that he made where he's like, well, I never specifically said that it was Link and the thing, which led everyone to think like, oh, well, maybe it's a female riding the horse or whatever, if you guys remember that. And I made a video talking about it, and some idiot made a YouTube video that's like, Game Over Jesse wants a female Link in the next Zelda game, and this is why he's wrong. And I'm like, I didn't say that I wanted one. I don't know why you're getting so upset
But
about.
Thanks for the advertisement.
Yeah.
yeah, seriously.
It's like, I don't know why me talking about what something Aonuma said is ruining your day so horrible. But I posted the video, and then everyone like commented in it, and like, of course they're mad because they just want the male Link. But it's like, well, you know, if they just like watched the video that he's referencing, they would see that I didn't say what that person said. And he put my image there with like a fake tear running out of my eye. And I'm just like, I think I commented on the video, and I was just like, oh, thank you, this was awesome.
Who made this video? I would like to publicly call them out.
No,
No, don't give them credit.
Fair enough, but
Yeah.
Kind of
But-
like when people give mean comments or whatever, I don't even respond to them. I usually just like delete it. Like, although a lot of people that have tried to put mean comments on my YouTube, they never actually end up coming out because they usually have swear words, and I have my comment section set up that a lot of the more stronger swear words automatically get held for review. So people put like a bunch of the F word, and it just gets held for review immediately. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't want that. My comment section has the F
Yeah.
word, and so I delete it. So I'm
But-
like, your comment's not even being seen. You're just trying to be a troll.
But yeah, someone like sent me the video and was like, "Hey, what do you think about this video that someone made about you?" And I'm just like, "It's just hilarious that it ruined their day so bad that I had an opinion." Which
Oof.
wasn't even my opinion. It was just like a thought on what Aonuma had said. But yeah, so I came up with the situation that like it would be interesting if like Nintendo did a thing to where it's like Pokemon. So like think back to Wind Waker, okay? And where it's Link and his sister Aryll.
Jesse,
Yeah.
We have
got a super chat
Oh. A
from
super...
Tina.
Whoa.
From Nurse Tina.
What?
yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you, Nurse Tina. Also, Wild Horse. She can't think of any question right now. She's on a lot of medication.
That is insane.
Oh well.
It's understandable.
I'm
that
happy
is
she's feeling
understandable,
well.
but thank you. She should probably be keeping that money for her
Yeah.
medical expenses. But thank
Probably.
you, anyways.
Thank you. I've said like a million times to her. Keep it to buy something nice for yourself because. Yeah. So, anyways, using Wind Waker as an example, you have Link and you have Aryll. So imagine if the game would have began with like Link's grandmother coming in the room, and Link is sleeping on the bed on one side, like most Zelda games, and Aryll is asleep on the Zelda game in the other side. And just like Pokemon or other games ask you, are you a boy or girl? Even the new Fire Emblem game, not the newest one, but the one that they had for the 3DS, Fire Emblem Fates, I think, they had the new character who was canonically a boy and a girl. You could choose either, and they had different character models for either. So if they would have made Zelda the same way as Nintendo had made other games, to where you go in and like as soon as Zelda's grandmother walks in, she says like, "Hey, wake up. You know, like it's your birthday, it's time to wake up." And then the camera like zooms in or whatever to where you can see both of the beds, and it literally asks you, like all of the other games, are you a boy or a girl? And depending on which answer you make is the one that gets out of the bed. So like if you say you're a girl, then it'll be Aryll that gets out of bed. Or if you pick you're a boy, it'll be Link that gets out of bed. And then you can just like choose the name like you always do. And then whichever one wakes up is the one that, oh, well, it's your birthday today. Here's your green tunic because you're old enough or whatever. I think that would be the perfect situation because then you could have the people, it's like, well, Link shouldn't be female, wah, wah, wah. And then they can just play as normal Link. Or you can get the people that's like, Nintendo is rude to us because they don't give us a choice like they do in Pokemon. So then they can stop whining and they get their choice. Or they could just have it to where you can just switch between each Link. Like Majora's Mask, the one segment, you could switch between Link and coffee, whatever. Wind Waker let you switch between the Korok and Link at certain points, or the statue and Link. So just have it like that, to where it's like, oh, I want to play as Link now, so I'm going to play as Link. Or I want to play as Link's sister, so now I can play as Link's sister. Yeah. But what do you guys think?
I already said my piece. I'm indifferent. I don't think we need Linkle, personally, but
Yeah, I wouldn't want it to be a Linkle. But if they did do it, I would just want it to be like a normal, like a new character or whatever.
Yeah. I don't really care either way.
Yeah.
I think if they did it, they should make it like like kind of what you said, optional thing, like in Pokemon, for example. But honestly, like it doesn't change really much about the games overall. It's just who cares, man? and here's the thing too. Okay. So people who are like, no, Link can't be a female character because Link has always been a man. My rebuttal is like, okay, but Link is not usually even the same person. So why does it matter? Link has always worn green. No one was upset that he didn't wear green in Breath of the Wild.
Oh, there was people that was upset.
Well, they can shut up.
There are those
I mean,
babies that are like, Link has to be this, his hair has to be the same, his hat has to be the same. If it doesn't have the exact same stitching, it's not my Link.
Then you're the one that is just closing yourself off from just enjoying things.
Yeah.
Like,
there's nothing inherently wrong
yeah.
with him having a blue tunic.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, it's just like I don't really care either way. If it's in there, I'm like, okay. If it's not, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
personally, I back anything that Aonuma and Miyamoto do with the Zelda series. They're like, oh, we're gonna make a 3-player Zelda game that is not in the timeline. I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's not in the timeline. It's just a side story. That's great. And then a week later, they're like, no, it's in the timeline. It's a direct sequel to A Link Between Worlds. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. I liked A Link Between Worlds. That's cool. We got a sequel. So
Sure.
it's like,
It's their game.
I'm pro Aonuma. I'm just like, whatever he wants to do. It's not in the timeline. That's great. It is in the timeline. That's great. Now with Breath of the Wild, it's like, this takes 10,000 years after all of the timelines. I'm like, cool. That makes more sense than it being somewhere else. Or they're like, it's not in the timeline, it's completely on its own. I'm like, that just makes as much sense as well because it has everything. So, yeah. They're like, it has Zora and Rito. I'm like, cool, I like them both. Let's have it.
yeah.
So, yeah. Or the people that's like, oh, this ain't a Rito because Rito don't look like that. And I'm like, yeah, and Zora were blue and green until Twilight Princess, and we got a red one. And now
Rito were fish people that became bird people, so why is it unreasonable to them for them to just be kind of different birds?
No, there was the enemy in Zelda 2 that people were like, no, it's this race.
Yeah, the Foca.
Yeah, it's not Rito, it's the
But
Foca.
here's the thing though, is that the Rito and Breath of the Wild, they don't even look the same. Like you look at Cass and Rivali,
He's like the
and then the
toucan
Rito
from
Elder.
the Fruit Loops.
Yeah. Cass is the freaking Fruit Loops toucan. Rivali is Falco Lombardi from Star Fox, and the Rito Elder is like a freaking really obese chickadee or something, like owl.
Fat Kapora Gabora.
Yeah.
Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they have like a Kapora look alike? That would have been perfect.
That would have been. So, but anyways, people were like, "Well, physiologically speaking, Zelda doesn't care about your science."
No.
Fish turned into birds because it got more wet.
Yeah,
All right.
it makes perfect sense.
Next question.
Yes, because my sleeping pills are starting to kick in, so I'm getting real
Freshwater fish
tired.
couldn't adapt to salt water, so freshwater fish became bird.
Yeah. All right. Next question. We got to rush through
Next
this.
question. Yes,
For
let's.
Ilya. Also, hello, Abigail and George and Radical Fox. I've never met a Radical Fox.
Well,
Met normal foxes. What's the next question?
It's up to you, Daniel.
Oh no.
you were supposed to be looking. This was a test.
Oh, okay. I actually like this one. Mr. Slayer, or is it Miss Ilar? I'm gonna say
that
Mr.
was the
Sylar.
author of the question I chose.
There's one I put in the
Thank you
Google
for
Docs from the
subscribing,
chat.
Radical Fox.
I think it was a different question.
Oh, probably.
But anyways, they ask, what are your theories on who or what are the Lomai / Pharaon / Barbarian tribe from Breath of the Wild?
We actually have a really good video about this, written by a Lorulian historian.
Hell yeah.
Dawn says she said she would like to see a different boss instead of Ganon. I'm just Tex. I know nothing about Zelda. We're sorry that you're having to go through this. No, but thank you, though. It's really sweet and kind of you. I remember when my grandmother, she was in the hospital for like almost a month, and she had a nurse that was always there with her, helping her do things. And I could just imagine if my grandmother watched stuff on YouTube, she'd be like, "Hey, can you put this on the YouTube for me?"
Oh, the YouTube.
Yeah, she was mainly just asking for water and stuff, though.
Oh.
But we have a video talking about the barbarian Lomai tribe. It goes very, very in depth on it, written by a Lorulian historian.
What's the cliff notes? Give us the cliff notes, Jesse.
Basically, they were just an ancient tribe that was there, and they made stuff, and then they left, and then they converted into the Lomai tribe, the beach guys. Yeah,
In Laurelin Village?
I guess. Yeah, that's the
That
one
makes
by the
sense.
ocean. Because like they
Yeah.
have there's a pattern symbol that they have on some of their stuff that's the same as found on the statues that they build. Because they have statues and artifacts and everything located throughout the entirety of that giant Hyrule.
Yes.
And there's also a thing where they
Ibra to Necluda, all the
Yeah.
way and everywhere in between.
they worshipped like they may have worshipped Ganon. I think I forgot what it was.
Oh.
There's a bunch of cool stuff in it. Connor voiced it.
Why Ganon?
Because like they have the thing with like statues that has like pig faces and stuff. So
I thought it was the dragons. But maybe I was like
they have
looking at the
both.
statues differently.
they have dragon statues, but they also had the pig statues.
Maybe they like pork.
I like pork.
Yeah,
Because
because it's like the
I ate bacon
Yiga
earlier.
liked the things. Chiblima made pork rolls for her party that she's having.
Oh.
Yeah, but she's kind of like sexually biased because it's an all-female party. So I wasn't invited. Daniel was invited. Ilya could have shown up. But then it gets really odd because like not only is everyone there female, but everyone there is also Asian. So it's like an exclusive Asian female party.
But Tubes is not Asian.
Yeah.
So
Well, maybe like a descendant. Because, okay, so like Hawaiians, right? Hawaiians are like descendants of like Asians or whatever. And like she said that the place that she was from was like the Hawaii of Canada.
kind of. I mean, that's a pretty loose comparison, though, to my
So
understanding.
it's not Canada's Hawaii.
Not really. It's far too close to the shore. But it's basically like our, I'm not super knowledgeable on the subject, to be completely frank.
All right.
But
Well, anyways, yeah, you can go watch that video. And check it out. Next question, I guess. Well, Ilya, do you have any thoughts on them?
I honestly wasn't following.
The barbarian tribe?
they got all
I
them.
mean, I never thought anything of it, honestly. I was
Yeah.
just like, oh, cool, barbarian tribe.
Like with Zelda games, they're always just like, they always throw out like, oh, this ancient tribe, this dark tribe, this like secret tribe. Like I just always group them all together, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. There's
Maybe they were the people that made Majora's Mask.
yeah, something happened long ago. They shouldn't have done it, and they did. And now we have yeah.
bad
That's-
stuff happens.
Fallen Echo asks, do you all think Ganon is really gone from the main Zelda series? Nope.
No.
Because Ganon in that game gives up his cycle of reincarnation or whatever it is what the game tells you. I forgot exactly what it says. But it's like it's not up to him. It's a curse that was placed on him. You can't give up a curse. You have to do something to break the curse. Like, if that's why in movies it's like someone curses someone, they're like, oh, well, I'm going to break this curse. And they're like, you can't. It's curse.
You're cursed, though.
You gotta...
I thought that maybe I misread like
And
the
then-
dialogue that says he gave up on the cycle of reincarnation, because I thought it was just that he had given up on that like particular reincarnation, like that he had given up on
Being the
taking
calamity.
material, like a material corporeal
Oh,
form
yeah.
of a person like Ganondorf, and just that's why he became Dark Beast Ganon instead.
That may be it.
That may be how maybe I read it wrong. I don't know.
I know I've seen videos from people talking about. I've heard both. I should go back and look at it. But yeah, it's Ganon, he'll always come back, even if it's not in a game that takes place after Breath of the Wild. There's still tons of times that he's come back since, like, before then. Because people think the next Zelda game has to take place after, but like with Skyward Sword, that was the last big Zelda game, and it takes place before all of them. So, like, they could come out, and that was the same thing, that like, the entire point of Ocarina of Time was that it was supposed to take place in the beginning of the timeline. Then they made Minish Cap, that was supposed to be the beginning of the timeline. Then they made Skyward Sword, that was supposed to be the beginning of the timeline. So they could come out with another game, because in Skyward Sword they have all this ancient tech, and they talk about all these ancient tribes. So like the next bad guy could just be like a former version of Demise. Who knows? Or like Ganondorf could come back, but it could be a different Ganondorf, like from the Four Swords games. Or
Abigail asks, what do you think would break the curse?
the Triforce, maybe.
Yeah. Because if you could make a wish on the Triforce to corrupt an entire world, probably breaking a curse wouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, the way
too
that
big
I
of a
see it
stretch.
is like Demise would be the evil equal to Hylia.
Mm-hmm.
And Hylia was created by the three goddesses who are above them. So, and they're the ones that power the Triforce. Hylia is just the one who protects the Triforce. So, the three goddesses have more power, I would say, individually than Hylia or Demise would have. And since all three of them are powering the Triforce, then you would be able to use it to make a wish that would outpower or be stronger than that Demise had. So I would say that would probably be the only thing. Maybe Hylia if she was still alive, but since it's Zelda, maybe Zelda hasn't unlocked that kind of power. Plus, it would be really boring, because that would just be the end of the series if that happened.
Yeah. I mean, they could always create more games.
Yeah, put it like
Between it.
before them, like just sandwich all of them in between Breath of the Wild and Skyward Sword.
Could. They could even still make a prequel to Skyward Sword if they wanted to. They keep making
That's
games
true.
and like this one's the first one.
Dawn says she thinks, Tina says, Dawn says she thinks so too. The only way to get rid of Ganon. So yeah, the Triforce probably. Ilya, what's your last question?
Oh, I wasn't looking.
So
I'm
you feel my-
sorry. I'm thinking about my bed right now.
Yeah. Well, this is the final question, so make it Gouda. I don't like Gouda
okay.
cheese. Everyone always says that. Like Daniel always jokes and says like, "Oh, it's Gouda," and
So
I
Gouda.
used to like it because I was like, "Oh, it's cheese, but it's a joke," and I like cheese and I like jokes. But then I actually ate Gouda cheese and I'm like, "Oh, it's so bad." And then like
What?
the way that they described it, because like I bought it and then I seen like how it was made and everything, because I went through a phase where I was just really interested in like different cheeses, because I'd only had like American cheese and cheddar cheese and Parmesan cheese, like basic cheeses. So I seen
Hashtag basic cheeses.
yeah. So then like I started asking people, like YuriofWind or Andrew or whatever, like he said to get like extra super duper sharp cheddar cheese. So I bought that,
yeah.
and then someone said to get Gouda cheese, and I got that, and then I ate it, and I was like, this tastes weird. I don't know how to describe it. And then I was looking at a YouTube video of like how they made it, and the person described it as like soft and pungent. And I'm like, pungent cheese. I guess that's how I would describe it, but it doesn't. It's not that great. Abigail has a question for you, Ilya.
Yeah, I just noticed because I was scrolling.
Well, she just posted it.
Yeah. If you could choose any item, like a dungeon item from any previous Zelda game, you could have it implemented into the next Zelda game, which would you choose? I think we all have similar answers. The hook shot.
Yeah, the only
Simply
reason
because
I say
it wasn't in Breath of the Wild.
yeah, and the only reason I go back to the hookshot is because they made it in the game. Like they could just patch the game and have it in Breath of the Wild in less than an hour because they already created it for the game.
I understand why they didn't leave it in though, because they were like it would kind of defeat the purpose of the climbing mechanic. It would make it a little too easy.
Yeah.
True. But I think you gotta limit it to what can the hook shot hook into, right?
True.
If you did that, like only certain, then that's how it has been in previous games. Like you cannot hookshot onto just any wall. It's got to be something like a treasure chest or a target or a wooden post or fence or something like that.
Yeah, they could have just made it so like
Or that
the rocks are too hard for it to go in.
the roofs on Kakariko Village houses. But like if they just made it, yeah, like you can't hookshot onto a rock or ground or something, then cool. There you go. Most of your climbing is still required.
Or make it like the what is it called? What is it called in
Right.
Wind Waker? The
Good
thing
night,
that wraps
Ella.
around things.
Good night, Tina.
Grappling hook, make it like that and be like, you can only wrap it around certain things like tree branches or something.
Yeah, then you could just swing around like Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
and
Spider-Man.
I think I mentioned this in like a podcast like a year ago where I talked about the grappling hook too, and how in Phantom Hourglass you could use the grappling hook to like hook it between two things and use it as a slingshot to slingshot Link. And I was saying how that would be fun. Like, so you could hook it between two trees, slingshot Link into the air, and then use your paraglider to fly somewhere.
Also, I just
great.
realized that it was about a year ago that I started watching the podcast.
Well, it was in October that we began the podcast.
Yeah, I think I didn't start watching until like December, like right as I went
So you
on
were
break.
watching like during the new, like when it was still new.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Because the
Yeah,
second
I
episode
remember,
was around
I think I was on
Halloween.
Christmas break because it was my senior year, and that's when I started asking questions. And then a few months later, I became a voice person.
Yeah, that's what asking good questions will get you guys.
Or joining the Discord, because that's how I knew about.
Yeah, or
The
just
thing.
being a nice person and good at voiceovers.
Yeah.
Don't be rude.
Mm.
All right. I guess Daniel will get a final question, and then we'll end. So everyone, this is the very last questions. We're leaving. Join the Discord if you want to keep up with us, chat with us, play games with us. We did a Smash Bros. Stream the other day.
Okay, so this is one I grabbed from Discord, I think. Kind of aimed at you, Jesse.
Oh.
Fallen Echo today asked, I was checking out your Patreon and noticed you're a new father. Well, that's only kind of sort of new.
Oh yeah,
Really,
it probably
few years old.
Yeah, I probably
Probably
wrote
an
that
old thing.
back then.
He says, as a fellow father of a 3-year-old girl and a 1-year-old boy, I'd like to know how you plan on introducing your daughter to the video game world.
I give her my Switch when she asks for it.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Is when speaking from experience as well. My son's 6 now. He's very much into video games too. And if you are interested in something, your kids will be interested in it as well. Like almost a guarantee, they're gonna be interested because they want to know like what you find interesting about it. They'll ask questions about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you won't have to try too hard. She probably will ask for the Switch or whatnot.
Yeah, even if it's just the cell phone, she'll just be like, "Let me watch something," and I'll be like, "Okay," and then hand it to her. Or if it's like Mario Kart or something, I'll just hand her that, and she'll just do whatever, and then she'll put it down when she's bored, and then she'll pick it up the next day, and she'll be a little bit better, and then the next day a little bit better, and eventually she'll know what she's doing.
Already better than me. Yeah. I mean, with Spencer, he's his first game he played. He was watching me play Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii. He was about 2-ish, and he was like, "I want to play too." So I gave him a second Wii remote, and he was Diddy Kong, and pretty much he just, cause you can do like a thing where you'll hold on to a Donkey Kong's back. Pretty much just did that, but that was the first game he ever played, and he's just been on it ever since. And basically, as I got new games, he would either see me playing it, and he would want to play it just out of secondhand interest. So I didn't really have to introduce him to being interested in video games. He just very much has always been. Although I do plan on going back to introduce him to some of the like older Zelda games and stuff later. But
yeah, I seen a weird thing from someone posted online saying that like they were going to Fallen Echo. My daughter got her 2DS this Christmas with $5. You did not need to donate $5 to tell us that.
but thank you.
But that is very awesome. Yes.
Yeah. That's exciting.
Um, Daniel?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. You said I.
What? I don't know. I was just you didn't. Thank you for $5.
Yes, thank you. So
Oh my God.
my brother got his son a 2DS this Christmas, and I gave him a bunch of games that I had for my 3DS, and I'll probably get my daughter her own 2DS at some point as well, maybe. Because like the 2DSs are like a used 3DS or even a used 2DS, that would be even cheaper. Like they're already cheap, so like a used 2DS, I don't even like $50. I don't even know, but I would. Wait, they even have the Zelda 2DS, don't they?
Yeah, they have a really pretty one. I think
Yeah.
it's the blue Hylian shield.
Oh yeah,
yes,
the
it's
new 2DS
gorgeous.
XL.
It's so good looking.
Yeah, Fallen Echo says you guys are awesome. No, you're awesome, Fallen Echo. But yeah, so I introduced my little brother to Zelda with Ocarina of Time. And then he just played through the Deku Tree. He had a lot of trouble. He didn't understand much because at the time, like, he wasn't really able to read that well. So whenever it would say, like, climb the ladder or this is a slingshot, this is how you use it, he wasn't able to see those. And, like, usually even if you can't read, you can see, like, oh, it says press this button to use this. So then they can press the button to use that. But he was playing with an Xbox 360 controller because it was being emulated. So, like, he would look for the C button, and there's, like, no C button. So, obviously, that caused issues. But when it came out on the 3DS, because I had played it with him in the live streams, which I actually have them up on my YouTube channel, you can go back and look at, like, his first experience, because that was what I was wanting to do, because I was like, I wished I could remember what was going through my head when I first played The Legend of Zelda. So, introducing him to it, I was like, I'll just record his first reactions. That way, like, he can actually go back and do his. But at first, it was just, like, he thought it was cool, but it was confusing. And then it got to a point to where I let him stream, and he was able to, like, find the rupees, get the shield, get the sword, beat the Deku Tree all by himself. Yeah.
Nice.
So, Ilya, how do you plan on introducing your son and or daughter to Zelda?
Yes, because for clarification, I don't have children. I teach children.
You don't?
You're a fraud.
You're not a parent yet?
No, I've been a teacher
Apparently
of
not.
many different things. So punny. Honestly, I'll probably just, like, I'll play games, and if they want to join, be like, cool, this is what this is. I don't think I'll ever force video games on them.
Oh, jeez.
Honestly, and, like, I saw something and it makes so much sense. Like, kids learn more from watching than from what you tell them to do necessarily. So probably like what you said, Daniel, my kids would probably see me playing and they'll play too, which is something that I'll probably emphasize. Like, I'll probably try to read a lot more once I become a parent so that they want to read too. Because I didn't like reading
Ilya,
as a child.
You're fired. Yes. You can't be a parent unless you're on the podcast. Actually, because I am a parent, I was invited on the Nintendad's podcast.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But
It's basically Kayla and I have to be banned from the podcast because
Yeah.
neither of us are
Banned.
parents.
Finish, Ilya. What were you saying?
I was just saying I would introduce it naturally.
All right.
I would never force them to play it.
So I remembered what I was going to say earlier before I mentioned the thing about my brother. I was watching a podcast, and someone had written in, because they were talking about that, like how to introduce your kid to new games or whatever. And someone had written into the podcast and said that they planned on, because they wanted their child to understand, like, the history of games. So they said, like, they would introduce them to NES games first, and then, like, 6 months later introduce them to Super Nintendo, and then, like, you know, just later on doing that, and then basically working their way up so they can appreciate, like, the different console generations with how games advance graphically and story-wise and gameplay-wise. And I looked at it like, well, what if they look at, you know, the 8 and 16-bit games and just be like, well, these are boring, I don't want to play games because this sucks. And then they see something like Wind Waker HD and they're like, oh, well, this is awesome. I would love to play this. But then they just don't like, some people just don't like 2D games. And they were talking about that. And they, like, in a way, like, it makes sense if you want your kid to understand, like, the history of games and stuff. But that's something they can learn retroactively. Like, they can play the games that are out now, so they get to experience them as they're new and talk about the new games with their friends who are also playing those new games. That way they don't go to school and be like, yeah, I played A Link to the Past. It's this new game on the Super Nintendo. And their friends are like, well, I played Breath of the Wild 7. And yeah, so it's like,
I get the logic, though. I remember one time I was playing Super Metroid, and I love that game to pieces. And my nephew came over. This was a few years ago this happened, so he was probably 9 years old or so. And he came over with my brother, and I can't remember why they came, probably just to pick something up. But my nephew asked me, he goes, what are you playing? And I went, oh, this is Super Metroid. You played Metroid Prime, so this is like the game that came out before that. And he just looked at it and went, this looks like the worst game ever. And I said, get out. But I was like, man, you cannot just look at a game, like one screenshot of a game, and entirely judge it on that.
Yeah.
Especially just on its graphics alone. Especially because you like Minecraft. So
there's a new game that they put on the NES store, or not the NES store, the NES collection for the Switch. And it was after the stream yesterday. I had finished Smash Bros. And everything, and I had ended the stream, and I was still talking to Cece because she was live streaming. So I was like, I'll just play around, see what these games are. Because some of them, like Dr. Mario and stuff, I played them, but some of the other games I hadn't. And there was this one that was new for this month. And it played basically like a Zelda game. Like each level was like one room in a Zelda dungeon. You just had to like figure out the puzzles. But you played as like a weird blue-green blob instead of a human. It was like the adventures of something. But it was really cool. So if you guys are a fan of like Zelda-like games, I guess that's one of the first Zelda-like games because, yeah. But anyways, that podcast that I was talking about, it was like the adventure of something. You'll know what it is because it has like it looks like a choo-choo as like the main character, like I
gotta check this out.
Yeah, it was confusing at first, and then I figured it out. But because like you get these things, and you shoot the things, and the things turn into things, and then you gotta push them. It's weird. But anyways, the podcast that I was listening to, whenever they were talking about that, they were like, "What if, like, would you do that with books? Would you do that with music? Would you do that with movies? Like, would you everyone's excited about like Avengers.
You can only watch movies from the 1920s now.
Yeah. So they're like, would you do that with like TV shows and movies? Why would you just do that with video games? Because they used it like as an example. Everyone's getting excited about Avengers Endgame. So it's like, would you keep your kid from watching all of these new great movies and force them to watch the millions of Western movies that came out long ago that were super boring?
Yeah, sorry, son. Before you can watch these superhero movies, you got to get through all the spaghetti westerns.
Or like before they could read Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or Ilya's apparent favorite, The Hunger Games, which this podcast was loosely based off of because The Hunger Games, the Hylian games, the Hylian Gamescast. So before they can read those books, would you make them read like books from the 1200s? I guess like if you're giving them the first book, you would start them out with like the Bible. I don't know.
I was about to be like, go really old, choose the Bible.
But even that's like a collection of books. So
exactly. It's like
yeah.
But that's a good point to bring up. Like you wouldn't do that with movies or books, so why would you do it with video games?
Like that would just be weird too. I could understand like before, like going to a kid and be like, okay, before you can watch the Avengers, you have to watch Iron Man and then Captain America. Like that would kind of make sense because those are still good movies on their own. And if you just watch Avengers Infinity War as your first Marvel movie, then you're just like, who are these people? Why is this guy there?
Care?
Who? But if you watch all the other movies, you're like, no, Spider-Man.
Oof. too soon.
Yeah, but then
Even
It'll
though it was a year
always
ago.
be too soon.
It'll always be too soon.
even though he literally just finished filming the next Spider-Man movie, so it's like, will he come back? Well, yes, obviously.
We already knew that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he signed a contract similar to the Venom contract that I was talking about earlier, because I think it was like Jacob or Tevi was mentioning, like the Venom movie is like, oh yeah, they set up the sequel for like the movie and Carnage and everything, and I'm like, well, yeah, when he signed his contract, he signed up for 5 movies, like 3, like an actual trilogy, and then so like a trilogy of Venom movies, and then 2 appearances in other non-Venom movies, kind of like in Spider-Man Homecoming, Iron Man. It wasn't an Iron Man movie, but he was in the film, so like a side appearance or whatever, which is what he signed up for. And even while touring like months before Venom released, they were going around having interviews where they were like, yeah, at some point, like in the future, we're going to have a movie where Spider-Man and Venom will actually meet. Like at some point, they'll be in the same movie together. And that off the bat tells you like, oh, well, yeah, apparently they're going to have sequels and stuff, and Spider-Man's eventually going to meet them. Which also tells you that for some reason Venom also takes place in the Avengers world. So apparently he wasn't snapped out. Or maybe it's... Yeah. Anyways, this has been a Zelda podcast talking about Venom. Now, Ilya, who are you? What are you doing here? Why are you... Why do we care?
I do voiceovers.
I love every time that
channel.
we ask you something or to do something, you always use like that softer voice with like the accent, and you're just like, yeah, I'm not gonna do it, but
No, it'd be hard.
but it's
I
awesome.
guess. But yes, it's because I have trouble self-promoting. That's why. So I'm like, well, hi, I'm this. Yeah, I do voiceovers here on Jesse's channel. I have my own channel, The Geek Apprentice. New videos every Wednesday. I actually have an announcement going up tomorrow, so watch that.
Whoa.
Are you
Slow down
interviewing
there.
George Lucas?
No,
Oh, well,
I don't
I'm not
watch Star
interested.
Wars.
Going up in the past, depending on if people are watching this live or not, I
Yeah,
guess.
people technically
It's true.
they would be
I didn't think
watching
about that.
this episode like probably next Saturday.
The episode goes up December 30th, 2018 at 9 a.m.
Whoa, that was last year, Ilya.
Who would
Because
watch this a year from now?
through the power of editing,
Watch it a week from now, it would be last.
through the power of editing
That's true.
and YouTube, we are time travelers.
Woo.
There you go.
It's
But
amazing.
yeah, I have a channel. It's just geeky stuff, mainly Zelda, Harry Potter, and Disney. But hopefully a little bit more stuff throughout this next year. And I have
Hunger
an
Games on
Instagram, which is
Instagram.
just... Well, yes, Hunger Games. And on Instagram, I'm just The Geek Apprentice. So just look that up. That's about it. That's all I do.
And no Twitter.
No Twitter.
No Twitter. No
Because
Twitter.
we-
I don't like Twitter.
We all, as the human race, disappointed Ilya. So she...
Yes.
No, it's just I don't like. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I just don't like Twitter and the
Humanity.
atmosphere it can provide.
Yeah. Sparrow's Nest says, I watch old podcasts. Thank you for going back and watching old podcasts.
Yes.
Abigail says, don't forget Hunger Games.
I know. I dedicate November to Hunger Games unintentionally the same month as Zelda month, but
Why is November Zelda month?
PBG.
Because this guy, Peanut Butter Gamer, you may have heard of him. He does the YouTubes.
Oh,
He started
when
it like
was
10 years ago.
anticipating-
that's
When
like...
he was anticipating the release of Skyward Sword, he was like, "I'm so excited! Skyward Sword's coming out in November. I'm making November Zelda month." And then everyone on YouTube was like, "Okay, November is now Zelda month." So
I've
Which kind
only
of works
watched,
because
like,
the
one
very
or two
first
videos
Zelda
of
game
his.
came out in November as well.
But that's when like all major games come out, because it's like right
That's true.
before the
those are like,
holiday
it's so
season.
it's Christmas. Merry Chrysler.
Yeah.
Happy
George
Crisis.
George says Ilya's Triforce is Zelda, Harry Potter, and Disney. Is that true? What would your Triforce be, Ilya? I would say Zelda, Harry Potter, but what would the third be?
My first thought, my Triforce is Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Okay, let's say you're nerdy.
That's the Trinity.
Triforce.
That's the Trinity, not the Triforce.
Well, that's part of why I always like Zelda, because I used to call it the Trinity. And my mom's like, this is not that.
That's Zelda is not a religion. No,
No.
they have a fictional
I used to think about it, I was
religion.
like, so Ganon's the Father, Zelda's the Holy Spirit.
Oh my
My
goodness.
mom was like, no.
No.
Okay, but geeky things?
Your geeky Triforce, not your religious.
Probably
Triforce.
Zelda, Harry Potter, and Disney. As much as I love Hunger Games, there's more to Disney and Zelda and Harry Potter. There's more in them.
All right, Daniel, who are you? What are you doing here?
And what's your personal Triforce?
Okay.
What's your
Okay.
personal Triforce?
I like that. Yeah, I'm
Also,
Daniel.
everyone in the chat saying great stream.
Aw, thank you.
George said, or no, Fallen
Abigail
says,
wants
amazing
to know my
podcast,
Triforce.
guys. Have a great night. George says, yeah, I didn't add the ribbon. Okay, Abigail says, the real question, who would Daniel's Triforce be? Javier says, great stream, guys. Wish you all a great new year. Yes, thank you. Good night to everyone. But before we go, Daniel, who are you?
Yes.
What is your Triforce?
Who am I? I'm Daniel. That's all I know. No, you can follow me if you so please on Twitter and Twitch. Burgerson, APTBURGERSON. I do sometimes stream. I didn't stream this week because of Christmas. Because it was Christmas. Happy Chrysler. So I didn't stream this week, but I do try and stream at least once, sometimes twice a week on either Tuesday or Wednesday on Twitch. And also I post pictures of all of those things that are behind me on the Instagram. If you guys like to look at pictures of nerdy stuff up close. And
he'll also
Twitter
send
is
you random
basically just
Snapchats
memes.
of his
So
face.
that's special just for you, Jesse.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was my face earlier.
Yeah, it was. You can also check out my website, which is called burgersonmedia.com. Or maybe it's Burgers on Media. It's burgersonmedia.com. I post lots of things that I work on that are not just the podcast and
It's
the
a
other
review.
stuff.
It's cheeseburger reviews from a vegetarian perspective.
It's not. But there are some cool things on there. If you want me to make a thing for you for your YouTube, you can check out some of the other stuff I've done, including the one that's on Ilya's channel, and also other channels like Nintendo Prime, who I've just made a new intro for. I don't know if he's going to use it, but he did say he liked it, so that was a good sign. But I also made his old one, so it's a good sign. But if you want custom intros, things like that, you can hire me. I can do a thing for you. I can also give you free music. There's free music on my website too that is original, so you won't get a copyright strike on your YouTube. So yes, feel free to check it out if you like to make videos and you're interested in video thingies like that. That's all the Daniel. Also, if you actually just want to talk to me, just join Jesse's Discord. And my Triforce is
Donkey
Zelda,
Kong,
Metroid,
Queen,
Mario.
and Bohemian Rhapsody.
Ooh, that's a good point. No, definitely gonna be Zelda, Metroid, Mario. The holy
You need
trinity
a
of
third
Zelda.
M. You need to get rid of Zelda and do a third M, so it's an
Can't.
alliteration.
Master Sword.
Master Sword.
No, just Master, because that the original Link was just called Master by
Miyamoto. Miyamoto.
All right.
There you go.
My name is Jesse, or Game Over Jesse, as all of you may know. Everything: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. Everything is / Game Over Jesse. I made it very simple for everyone. You can find videos like this on this channel because you're here watching this video. So of course you can find videos like this. But I encourage you to go check out Daniel's new video on why Zelda and Nintendo always had a timeline in mind.
Oh yeah, it's on my YouTube channel. I forgot to talk about.
And I would encourage you to go check
It's
out
good.
Ilya's channel for all of the great stuff that she does. Because they're kind of like this, where it's just her talking to the camera, but they're a lot better than when I talk to the camera. All right. With that, good night, everyone. Thank you for watching. Sorry, Ilya, that we ran late. I didn't think it was
It's
going
all
to be this
good.
long. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Let us know what your Triforce is in the chat.
Yes.